Have you ever had one of those moments that completely shifts your life? For me, it was the day I met Brandon. I was just another girl in a cafe, sipping cheap coffee and trying to figure things out when he walked in. He asked if the seat across from me was taken, and in that moment, I had no idea that simple question would change everything. We hit it off instantly, sharing quirky interests and easy laughter. Soon we were inseparable, talking about the future, including marriage. But I had no idea what was coming next, how complicated things were about to get. I still remember the day I first met Brandon like it was yesterday. I was sitting in this little dive cafe, sipping on the cheapest coffee they had, trying to sort through my jumbled thoughts and figure out what direction to take in my life. The atmosphere was a little worn, nothing fancy, just the buzz of the espresso machine and the mix of stale coffee beans in the air. Then, without warning, he walked in, almost like it was a scene straight out of a movie, but without any dramatic lighting or a soundtrack, just the ding of the doorbell and his unmistakable aftershave filling the room. "Is the seat taken?" he asked, pointing to the empty chair across from me with a smile that could probably make anyone's heart skip a beat. I did my best to play it cool, even though my pulse was racing. "Looks free to me," I replied, trying not to sound too flustered by his sudden appearance. We started talking, and it felt like we clicked instantly. He was into all the same quirky things I was: cheesy TV shows, pizza debates, pineapple, by the way, which he defended passionately, and spontaneous late-night conversations about everything under the sun. It didn't take long before we were more than just casual acquaintances. We were dating, and I felt like I'd known him for a lifetime. Before we knew it, marriage was a topic that came up in conversation. That's when things started to get a little more complicated. His parents. Meeting them for the first time felt like stepping into the lion's den. They had this way of smiling at you, but it wasn't welcoming. It was like they were sizing me up, evaluating whether I was worth their time. "So you're the girl Brandon can't stop talking about," his mom said, her voice sweet but carrying an edge that made my stomach tighten. "Guilty as charged," I replied, trying to keep my composure, though I could feel my nerves creeping up. It didn't take long for them to lay down their terms. It was prenup time. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a gold digger, and I certainly don't need anyone's money. But the way they went about it made me feel like they were treating me like a bargaining chip in some big financial game. "I'll sign your prenup," I said firmly, "but I have one condition. If either of us cheats, the cheater has to pay the other $200,000. Brandon's face went pale, like I'd just dropped a bomb on him. "Babe, I would never cheat on you," he said, looking completely taken aback. "Yeah, well, my ex said the same thing right before I caught him in the act," I shot back, letting him know this wasn't up for debate. "So it's this, or nothing." He reluctantly agreed, and even though his parents didn't look thrilled, they agreed too, though you could practically see the sour taste in their mouths. We thought that would be the end of the drama. But of course, it wasn't. One evening we were curled up on our old beat-up couch, the one we always meant to replace but never did because it became our spot. The TV was on, but we weren't really watching. We were too caught up in planning our dream trip to Italy, one we knew we couldn't afford but were determined to make happen. "Brandon, think about it. The food, the wine, the art. We have to go," I said, my eyes lighting up with excitement. He laughed, pulling me closer. "Tessa, babe, you had me at food. But let's be real. Our bank account is more camping in the backyard than romantic getaway to Venice." I playfully nudged him. "So we'll save up. We'll cut back on things we don't need, like, I don't know, your video games." He pretended to be horrified. "Not the video games. Take my shirts, my shoes, even my coffee maker, but not the games." We laughed. That was us, always dreaming big, but still grounded in reality. We didn't need anything fancy to be happy. Our joy was in the small things, like Brandon making breakfast on Saturdays. He couldn't cook to save his life, but somehow he had mastered scrambled eggs and toast, served with a side of terrible coffee. Still, I loved those mornings. "Hey, I'm thinking scrambled eggs today. What do you think?" he'd ask, already making his way to the kitchen. "Only if you promise not to burn the toast this time," I'd yell back, adding, And I'm making the coffee. One day, the topic we had been dancing around finally came up. We were doing dishes together, a simple task that somehow felt special because we were doing it side by side. "Tessa," Brandon said, breaking the comfortable silence. "We need to talk about starting a family." I paused, a plate still in my hand. "I know, it's scary, isn't it? What if we can't?" Brandon turned to me, drying his hands on a towel. "Then we'll handle it together. But we won't know unless we try, right? I mean, how hard can it be?" I laughed, a mix of nervousness and love bubbling up. Famous last words, babe. But that was our thing. No matter what life threw at us, we faced it together, even when his mom started dropping not-so-subtle hints about grandchildren every chance she got. "Tessa, darling, when are you going to give me some grandbabies?" she'd say, her voice dripping with sweetness, though her message was anything but. "You're not getting any younger, you know." I'd force a smile, biting my tongue. "We're working on it, aren't we, Brandon?" He'd always jump in to defend me. "Yeah, Mom, relax. These things take time." And that's just how things were with us. We took it all in stride, together. As the year dragged on, the pressure started to pile up, not just from Brandon's mom, Eleanor, but from inside our own hearts. We wanted a family so badly, but it just wasn't happening as easily as we'd hoped. Ever since Eleanor found her new hobby of making my life miserable, our home had turned into a battlefield, and her weapon of choice was her sharp, unforgiving tongue. What once were occasional snide remarks had turned into a daily assault on my confidence and my role as a wife. Things came to a head one Sunday at lunch, a day that was supposed to be laid back and peaceful. Eleanor, with her impeccable sense of bad timing, showed up uninvited just as we were about to sit down. The atmosphere instantly turned tense the moment she walked through the door, her eyes scanning the room like she was about to conduct a military inspection. "Well, isn't this just cozy?" she started, her voice dripping with sarcasm as her eyes flicked over the simple meal I had prepared. "You've really outdone yourself, Tessa. I can tell you've been slaving away in the kitchen all morning." Her gaze met mine briefly, the corners of her mouth lifting into a smug smirk. I forced a smile, determined to keep the peace. "It's nothing fancy, Eleanor. Just something quick and easy. Please have a seat." But as soon as we sat down, she wasted no time launching into her usual routine. "You know, Tessa," she said, her voice laced with condescension. "I was talking to Mrs. Henderson the other day, and she mentioned that her grandson was just born. It got me thinking, when are you and Brandon going to give me some good news? It's not like you're getting any younger." I could feel my face flush with a mix of embarrassment and anger. I glanced at Brandon, silently pleading for some support, but he was suddenly very interested in his plate. "Mom, come on," Brandon muttered weakly, but it was half-hearted and we all knew it. Eleanor pressed on, relentless. "And Brandon, dear, I don't mean to be harsh, but you're not a charity. You work hard for your money. Why waste it on Tessa if she can't even fulfill her basic duties as a wife? A cleaning service and a cook would be much more efficient, don't you think?" That's when I snapped. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Eleanor, I'm trying my best here. It's not like I don't want kids, and as for the house and my cooking, I didn't realize marriage was a service contract." Eleanor scoffed. "Well, it's not a free ride either. You have responsibilities, Tessa, ones you're clearly not living up to." The air in the room was thick with tension, and I could feel tears stinging the back of my eyes. But what hurt more than Eleanor's cruel words was Brandon's silence. He finally spoke, but his words cut deeper than I expected. "Yeah, Mom has a point. Maybe we should think about getting some help around here. It'd make things easier for you too." Easier for me. Those words stung, hitting me like a sharp jab. It was becoming painfully clear. I was fighting this battle alone. In the days that followed, Eleanor's visits became more frequent, and with each one her criticism grew sharper. She'd inspect every corner of the house, pointing out even the smallest flaw. "You call this clean?" She'd scoff, her tone dripping with disdain. My eyes must be playing tricks on me because this looks like a pigsty. Then she'd move on to jabs about my appearance. "Is that what you're wearing? A wife should dress to please her husband. No wonder Brandon's always so tired. He has to come home to this." I tried to defend myself, though it felt futile. "Eleanor, I don't dress for Brandon. I dress for me, and he's tired because he works hard, not because of what I wear." But it was like talking to a brick wall. She'd already made up her mind about me, and no matter what I said, it wouldn't change a thing. What hurt the most wasn't even Eleanor's constant criticisms. Though they were painful enough, it was Brandon's refusal to take my side. After each one of Eleanor's visits, we'd argue. "Why won't you stand up for me, Brandon?" I would plead, frustration building. "She's walking all over us, and you're just letting it happen." "She's old, Tessa," he'd respond, always with that tired, dismissive tone. "Set in her ways. What do you want me to do? Kick my own mom out?" "No, I just want you to be my husband," I'd say, feeling my heart sink. "Stand by me, not her." It was becoming clearer by the day that this wasn't just about Eleanor's disapproval. It was about us, whether we were strong enough as a couple to stand united, or if we'd let her harsh words tear us apart. As the days dragged on, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't a passing phase. It felt like we were under siege, and if we didn't act soon, there might not be anything left to save. Things between me and Brandon had been chilly ever since Eleanor had ramped up her criticisms, but it wasn't just the tension at home. Brandon had started acting strange, and it wasn't the kind of strange you get from work stress. It was something deeper, something that made my stomach churn with unease. It started with the phone calls. Brandon had always been open about his phone, no secrets between us, but lately, every time he got a call, he'd step out of the room. The caller ID always showed the same name, John Work. "Who's John Work?" I asked one evening, trying to keep my tone casual. But when I said it, I noticed Brandon flinch, a clear sign that something was off. "Oh, just a new guy at the office," he replied, but I could see the tension in his eyes. "Asks lots of questions, you know." I didn't buy it. Something was wrong, and I had a sinking feeling it had everything to do with the cracks in our marriage, and maybe more than I was ready to face. But it didn't stop there. Brandon, who had never cared much about his appearance, suddenly started paying attention to the way he dressed. Gone were the old graphic t-shirts and worn-out jeans. Now it was crisp button-up shirts and slacks, and cologne. He was wearing cologne now. Since when did he care about smelling like a department store? I thought to myself, watching Brandon get ready one morning. The new clothes, the cologne, the sudden attention to his appearance. It wasn't like him. "What's with the new look, Brandon? Got a job interview or something?" I joked, trying to keep it light, but I couldn't shake the unease growing inside me. He smirked, a little too quickly. "Just felt like changing things up. No harm in that, right?" But the changes weren't just about his clothes. The late nights at work were becoming more frequent. "Text me another long one, babe. Sorry, this project's killing me. Won't be late, I promise." But the clock would tick past midnight and I'd still be waiting, pretending everything was fine. I tried to dismiss it, convincing myself it was just work stress, but the feeling that something was wrong clung to me like a shadow. That's when I did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a private detective. It felt surreal, like something out of a bad TV show. But I had to know the truth. When the envelope arrived, I stared at it for what felt like hours before I finally opened it. The contents were as heartbreaking as they were damning. Photos of Brandon with another woman, their intimacy undeniable in each frame. They looked happy, wrapped up in a world that didn't include me. But it wasn't just the photos. The recording was the real dagger. I listened to their conversations, filled with endearments and plans. They weren't just having an affair, they were in love. Or at least Brandon was in love with her. I sat there, the evidence spread out in front of me, my heart breaking piece by piece. This was it. the proof that could shatter our marriage and anchor me in a stormy divorce, should it come to that. But I wasn't ready to confront him, not yet. I needed a plan, a way to navigate this wreckage with my dignity intact. For days, I carried the secret like a heavy stone, pretending everything was normal. Brandon continued his charade, and I played the part of the perfect wife, smiling, cooking, cleaning, all while the weight of the truth crushed me from the inside. Our conversations became rehearsed, each word measured carefully. We danced around the elephant in the room, pretending everything was fine. "Everything okay? You've been quiet lately," Brandon asked one evening, his concern sounding almost genuine. "Yeah, just tired. Work's been crazy," I lied, the words bitter on my tongue. It started as any ordinary day, but it quickly turned into something else. I was walking past Brandon's office when I overheard voices. The door was slightly ajar, and I hesitated before listening. It was Brandon and his mother, Eleanor. Their conversation wasn't light or casual, it was heavy, laden with tension and something far darker. "I'm telling you, Mom, I can't keep doing this." Brandon's voice came through, strained and exhausted. "It's not just about the kids anymore. I've lost all feeling for Tessa. It feels like we're roommates, not husband and wife." Eleanor's response was sharp and biting. "Of course you feel that way. She hasn't given you a child. And let's be honest, what else has she brought to this marriage? But don't rush things. My 68th birthday is coming up. We wouldn't want to miss out on a generous gift from her, would we?" Her words twisted the knife deeper, cold and calculating. It was clear they were using me, biding their time until they could throw me away. Brandon's voice turned flat, almost mechanical. "And after we get that nice, expensive gift, we can just kick her to the curb, right?" "Exactly, dear," Eleanor agreed, her voice dripping with malice. "Just keep her around a little longer." I stood frozen, rooted to the spot. They were talking about me like I was some kind of disposable object, planning my removal from the family as if it were a simple chore. The betrayal was crushing, but with it ignited something inside me, a burning need for revenge. They thought they could use me and toss me aside. They were about to learn exactly who they were dealing with. A few days later, at a family dinner, Eleanor, with her usual smug expression, casually brought up her birthday. "So, Tessa dear, what are you planning for my birthday? I do hope it's something special," she said, eyes glittering with expectation. I met her gaze, my face an unbreakable mask. "Actually, Eleanor, I was thinking of hosting a dinner at the city's most luxurious restaurant, a night you won't forget." Her eyes gleamed with greed, and she exchanged a brief, satisfied look with Brandon. They thought they had me trapped. What they didn't realize was I was already 2 steps ahead. "Oh, Tessa, that sounds just wonderful. Just close family, of course, to keep it intimate," Eleanor purred, her voice sweet as syrup. "Of course, Eleanor. It'll be our pleasure," I replied, the words tasting like poison on my tongue. The weeks leading up to Eleanor's 68th birthday felt like a slow, torturous countdown. Every smug comment from her, every indifferent glance from Brandon, only made my resolve harder. My plan was simple yet audacious. Something straight out of a thriller. Host a lavish dinner, pretend to be the dutiful wife, and then, at the perfect moment, deliver the devastating blow. The night before the party, the tension at home was palpable. Brandon, completely oblivious to what was brewing, was lounging on the couch, scrolling through his phone. "Everything set for tomorrow?" he asked, not even bothering to look up. "Oh, you could say that," I replied, my voice calm, belying the storm raging inside me. The day of the party arrived, and as guests filled the luxurious dining room I had reserved, the air was thick with anticipation. My heart raced, not from nerves, but from the adrenaline coursing through me. Eleanor, basking in the attention as usual, lavished praise on the restaurant. "Oh, Tessa, you've outdone yourself. This place is exquisite," she exclaimed loudly enough for everyone to hear. As the meal progressed, the conversations felt forced, the laughter hollow, but I played along, knowing what was coming. As the dessert plates were cleared, The waiter discreetly approached me with the bill. $66,000, he whispered. Without a second thought, I handed over my card, the gesture unnoticed by most. Then, just as Brandon's smirk spread across his face, he decided it was time to make his move. "Tessa," he began, his tone cold and detached. "I think it's time everyone knew. I'm tired of this. Of us." The tension between us had been brewing for months, but Brandon's declaration caught me off guard. "I want a divorce," he said, his words hanging in the air like a toxic cloud. It sucked the noise out of the room, leaving only a suffocating silence. I sat frozen for a moment, my mind racing to process the weight of his statement. Before I could respond, Eleanor, ever quick to twist the knife, chimed in. "Well then, since that's out in the open, I think it's best you leave, Tessa. We're celebrating family tonight, and you're no longer part of it." The room went deadly quiet. All eyes turned to me, waiting for the inevitable collapse. But instead of crumbling, I stood with a calmness I didn't truly feel. Without a word, I nodded and walked out. The cool night air slapped me as I left behind the only life I had known for years. Each step home was heavy, the reality of what had just happened sinking in. By the time I reached the apartment, no, his apartment, a plan had already begun to take shape in my mind. There was no time for tears, no room for sorrow. I packed quickly, numbed by the cold resolve that had settled over me. This was the end of one life and the start of another. As I zipped up the last suitcase, my phone buzzed with a relentless vibration. I ignored it at first, but when curiosity got the better of me, I saw Eleanor's name flashing on the screen. Her voice, sharp and grating, immediately filled my ear. "Tessa, the payment didn't go through. You need to fix this now." Oh, the irony. In my preparations for the inevitable, I had blocked the shared account, knowing it would be the first thing Brandon would try to use against me. I let the words sink in, savoring the moment before replying calmly. "That's unfortunate, Eleanor, but since I'm no longer part of the family, as you so eloquently put it, you'll have to figure this one out." Her outrage exploded through the phone, her words screeching with venom, but to me it was music. I could already imagine the chaos unfolding at the restaurant, the staff demanding payment, Eleanor throwing tantrums, and eventually the arrival of the police to calm the scene. It was a fitting end to the sham my marriage had become. The next morning, with the divorce papers in hand, I returned to what used to be our shared home for one final time. As soon as I stepped through the door, the tension in the air was palpable. Brandon and Eleanor were already arguing, but when they saw me, their hostility turned into a united front. "You've got some nerve showing up here after last night," Brandon spat, his face a mask of disbelief and anger. Eleanor, ever the viper, hissed in agreement. "Ungrateful wretch! You embarrassed us in front of the whole city. Do you know how humiliating it was to have the police show up? People were laughing, filming." I met their fury with a calmness I didn't truly feel. "Embarrassed? Is that really what you're concerned about right now?" I tossed the divorce papers onto the table, the damning photos of Brandon's affair on top. "This is what you should be worried about." Brandon's face drained of color as he picked up the photos, Eleanor peering over his shoulder. Their anger shifted to shock and then panic, the gravity of the situation sinking in. "And let's not forget about the prenup, shall we?" I added, my voice as cold as ice. "You cheat, you pay, $200,000 to be exact." Eleanor's face contorted in rage. "You wouldn't dare! You can't do this to us!" "Oh, but I can," I said, the words heavy and final. "And I will." Brandon, realizing the depth of his mistake, tried to salvage the situation. "Please, let's talk about this. We can fix it." I couldn't stop the bitter laugh that escaped me. "Fix it? You think a few words can undo this?" "No, Brandon, it's done." Eleanor attempted her usual manipulative approach, softening her tone, feigning concern. "Tessa, darling, please think about what you're doing. This will ruin us." I met her gaze, unwavering. That ship has sailed, Eleanor. You should have thought about that before. Their pleas became more desperate, but my decision was already made. I was done being their pawn. In the end, Brandon had no choice but to borrow money from his parents to pay me. As I walked out of their house for the last time, check in hand, I felt a surprising lightness. The weight of their betrayal was gone, and I was finally free. With the payout, I found a small but cozy place of my own. It wasn't much, but it was my sanctuary away from the chaos of my old life. Life became quieter, and I cherished it. I had a job that kept me busy, neighbors who smiled and waved, and a little garden to care for. Every now and then, though, a piece of gossip from the past would find its way to me. Just the other day, while grabbing coffee at a local shop, I ran into someone from the old neighborhood. After the usual pleasantries, they leaned in, lowering their voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "Have you heard about the latest drama with your ex and his mom?" Curiosity piqued. I raised an eyebrow. "Can't say that I have. Do tell." The gossip was delicious. Apparently, Brandon's new girlfriend wasn't doing too well with Eleanor. They fought constantly, making my situation seem like a walk in the park. As I walked away, coffee in hand, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. Once, news like this would have sent me spiraling, but now it was just another bit of someone else's drama. These days, my biggest concerns are whether my tomatoes will ripen before the squirrels get to them, or if I'll ever master yoga without looking like a newborn deer on ice. Life is simpler, quieter, and infinitely sweeter on this side of the chaos. Did I do the right thing by standing up for myself? Or should I have stayed silent and let the past stay buried? After enduring years of betrayal and manipulation by Brandon and his mother, Eleanor, I finally took control of my life. When Brandon asked for a divorce, I used the opportunity to reclaim my dignity. At a family dinner, I revealed the truth, shared the evidence of his affair, and reminded them of the prenup. Despite their anger, I walked away with my self-respect intact, knowing that I had taken the necessary steps to free myself from their toxic grip. From the perspective of personal growth and empowerment, my decision to speak out and take control was necessary. For years, I had tolerated their cruelty, trying to please them and keep the peace. However, their lack of support, particularly from Brandon, revealed that I had been fighting a battle alone. By confronting them, I stopped being passive in my own life. I took the power back, choosing to prioritize my well-being over their comfort. This was a pivotal moment of self-liberation, where I decided not to let their toxicity dictate my future. Was it worth the emotional toll to stand up for myself, or should I have chosen a quieter path and kept the peace, even at the cost of my own happiness? What would you have done in my situation? Would you have confronted the betrayal head-on, or stayed silent to avoid the drama? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of strength and survival.
The phone buzzed against my desk, my mother's name flashing across the screen for the first time in 3 years. I let it ring, watching until the call ended, then waited for the inevitable voicemail notification. Her voice crackled through the speaker, strained and desperate in a way I'd never heard before. "Isabel, we need to talk. It's about the family. Please call me back. I'm Isabel, the daughter who was never good enough, the one who couldn't measure up to perfect Makey, my older brother who could do no wrong. At least that's who I was until I walked away from it all 5 years ago." "Everything okay?" Ryder poked his head into my office, his usual confident smile fading as he noticed my expression. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse, my mother called." I turned my phone screen toward him. "First time since I left." "Shit." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "What did she want?" "Family emergency, apparently." I played the voicemail again, watching Ryder's face as he listened. Funny how emergencies make people remember the children they wrote off. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from my father. "Please call your mother, it's important." "You going to call back?" Ryder leaned against my desk, arms crossed. I stared at the message thread with my mother. Years of unread holiday messages and guilt-laden texts filling the screen. I should probably find out if someone's dying at least. With trembling fingers, I hit the call button. She answered on the first ring. Isabel? Oh, thank goodness. Her voice wavered. We've been trying to reach you. I noticed. What's wrong? It's complicated. We're in trouble, sweetheart. The business, the house, everything. Meki, She choked back a sob. We need help. Of course. My golden boy brother had finally screwed up badly enough that they needed the backup plan. Me. What did he do? He made some investments, bad ones. Used the business as collateral without telling your father. We're going to lose everything. I closed my eyes, remembering the day I'd tried to warn them about Maki's gambling. They'd dismissed me as jealous, bitter, trying to tarnish their perfect son's reputation. How much? 3 million. She paused. We know you're doing well with your company. The news articles, the awards. We've followed everything. Now you have. The words came out sharper than I intended. Funny, I don't remember you being interested in my success when I was starting out. Isabel, please. We're your family. Family? I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Was I family when you told me I'd never amount to anything? When you called me the useless daughter at Aunt Sarah's wedding? When you chose Makey over me every single time? Silence stretched between us. Ryder placed a supportive hand on my shoulder. We were wrong, she whispered. I know that now, but please, we need you. No, Mother. You need my money. There's a difference. I took a deep breath. I'll think about it. That's all I can offer right now. I hung up before she could respond, dropping my head into my hands. You okay? Ryder asked quietly. They're broke. Makey gambled away the family business. I looked up at him. $3 million worth of mistakes, and they want me to clean it up. Are you going to? I stood up, walking to the window overlooking the city skyline. 5 years ago, I'd arrived here with nothing but determination and spite. Now I had everything they said I couldn't achieve. Success, respect, independence. You know what the worst part is? I turned back to Ryder. Part of me wants to help, just to prove I'm better than they were. But another part wants to let them crash and burn. He finished for me. Is that terrible? After what they put you through, I'd say it's human. My phone buzzed again. Makey this time. I declined the call. What are you going to do? Ryder asked. I thought about the scared little girl I used to be, always trying to prove herself worthy of love that should have been unconditional. About the woman I'd become, strong enough to build something from nothing. I'm going to show them exactly who their useless daughter turned out to be. I smiled, an idea forming. But not by writing a check. They need to see what real success looks like, and what it costs. Ryder grinned. Now that sounds like the Isabel I know. I picked up my phone, typing a quick message to my mother. I'll be home next week. We'll talk then. The response was immediate. Thank you, sweetheart. We knew we could count on you. They had no idea what was coming. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about making others suffer. It's about showing them exactly what they missed out on. The memory hit me as I packed my suitcase. 16-year-old me, standing in our family kitchen, clutching my acceptance letter to business school. Full scholarship? Makey had snatched the letter from my hands, scanning it with narrowed eyes. Must be some mistake, or they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel this year. Give it back. I'd reached for the letter, but he held it above his head, using his height advantage against me like always. Makey, stop teasing your sister, Mom had said, but she was smiling. She always smiled at his teasing. I'm not teasing. I'm being realistic. He dropped the letter onto the counter. Business school? Please. You can barely handle basic math. Remember when Dad tried to teach you about the family business? I did remember. I'd been 14, eager to learn, but every mistake was met with sighs and head shakes. Meanwhile, Makey got private lessons in the office, groomed to take over someday. My phone buzzed, jolting me back to the present. It was Daria. Tell me you're not seriously going back there, she said when I answered. I have to. I zipped up my suitcase. You didn't hear my mother's voice, Daria. They're desperate. Good. Let them be desperate. Remember your high school graduation? I winced. How could I forget? While Makey got a new car for his graduation, I got a lecture about being practical and considering community college instead of wasting time at business school. This isn't about revenge, I said, though part of me knew that was a lie. Bullshit. I was there, remember? I saw what they did to you. The memory shifted to another scene. My first business plan competition in college. I'd invited my family, reserved seats in the front row. They never showed up. Makey had a golf tournament that day. I found my old diary while packing. I told Daria, "Want to hear something funny? The day before I left for college, I overheard Mom and Dad talking about taking out a second mortgage to fund Makey's startup idea. The one that failed in 3 months? That's the one. $200,000 down the drain." I sat on my bed, fingering the worn pages of the diary. Meanwhile, I was working 2 jobs to buy my own textbooks. And now they want your money. Daria's voice dripped with disdain. "Please tell me you're not giving it to them." "No." I stood up, walking to my home office. On the wall hung my first business license, framed next to the newspaper article about my company's first major success. "I'm going to give them something better. The truth." What does that mean? It means I'm going to show them exactly what their useless daughter built while they were busy enabling their perfect son. A text from Meki lit up my phone. "Hey sis, heard you're coming home. We should talk before you see Mom and Dad." "Is that him?" Daria asked when I went quiet. "Yeah, probably wants to convince me to bail them out before I find out exactly how bad things are." I typed back a quick, "We'll see" to Makey. "Remember when he told you your first business would fail within a month?" I laughed. Right before he asked to borrow $5,000 for his foolproof investment scheme. Did he ever pay that back? What do you think? My doorbell rang. "Ryder, right on time for our pre-trip strategy session." "Daria, I have to go. Ryder's here." "Just be careful, okay? Don't let them pull you back into their games." I opened the door to find Ryder holding 2 coffee cups and a folder. "Found something interesting," he said, handing me one of the coffees. "Did some digging into your family's business finances?" "How bad is it?" He spread documents across my dining table. "Worse than they're telling you. Makey didn't just make bad investments. He embezzled, used company funds for personal expenses, took out loans using business assets as collateral without board approval. Criminal charges? Not yet, but it's heading that way if someone doesn't intervene." I picked up one of the documents, a loan application with a forged signature, my father's signature. They really think I'm going to swoop in and fix this, don't they? Ryder nodded. "Question is, what are you actually going to do?" I looked at my packed suitcase, then at the wall of achievements they'd never acknowledged. "I'm going to make them face every mistake, every dismissal, every time they chose him over me." I squared my shoulders. "And then I'm going to walk away and let them live with the consequences of their choices." "That's my girl," Ryder grinned. "Need backup?" "Always." I picked up my suitcase. Time to show them who their useless daughter really is. The familiar streets of my hometown felt smaller now, each turn bringing back memories I'd tried to forget. I pulled into the coffee shop where I'd worked during high school, now transformed into a sleek cafe. A perfect place for my first meeting with Meki. He was already there, occupying the corner table like he owned it. Same confident posture, same expensive watch, but his eyes held a desperation I'd never seen before. "Little sister." He stood to hug me. I stepped back. "Let's skip the pretense, Makey. What do you want?" His smile faltered as we sat down. "Can't I just want to see my sister?" After 3 years of silence, try again. A waitress approached. I ordered black coffee. Meki asked for some complicated specialty drink that wasn't even on the menu, then acted surprised when they couldn't make it. "Things are complicated," he finally said, settling for regular coffee. "Mom probably told you about the business." "She told me you made some bad investments. Ryder told me the truth." His face darkened at Ryder's name. "Your business partner should keep his nose out of family matters." "Family matters?" I laughed. "Like when you forged Dad's signature on those loans?" Coffee forgotten, Makey leaned forward. "Listen, I can explain everything. I had a plan. The investments were solid, but the market... Save it." I pulled out my phone, showing him the documentation Ryder had gathered. "Casino receipts? Luxury car leases? That was your solid investment plan?" "I was networking, building relationships with clients. You wouldn't understand. You've always been so small-minded about these things." "Small-minded." I felt my voice rising. "I built a multi-million-dollar company from nothing while you were gambling away our parents' retirement. An elderly couple at the next table looked over. I lowered my voice. How much did you really lose, Makey? He wouldn't meet my eyes. 4.2 million. Jesus Christ. I sat back, stunned. Does Dad know? Not everything. Look, I can fix this. I just need some capital to… To what? Double down? Hit the tables again? I have connections, he insisted. One good deal could turn everything around. But I need your help. Just a small loan, say $500,000. I'll pay you back double within 6 months. The same confident smile he'd always used to get his way. It probably still worked on our parents. No. His smile vanished. What? I said no. I'm not giving you money. Come on, Isabel, we're family. You can't just… Family? I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. Where was family when I needed help with college? When I was working 60-hour weeks to start my business? When I invited you all to my company's launch party and you didn't show because you had a golf game? That's not fair. I was… networking? Building relationships? I grabbed my purse. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, you're going to tell Mom and Dad everything. Every loan, every forged signature, every penny you stole, or I will. He grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. You wouldn't dare. I yanked free. Try me. I'm not that scared little girl anymore, Mickey. You can't bully me into submission. You think you're so much better than me now? He stood towering over me like he used to. With your fancy company and your business partner, I made one mistake. One mistake? You destroyed our family's legacy. The business Dad spent 30 years building. Gone because you couldn't admit you had a problem. People were definitely staring now. Mickey's face had turned red. You know what? His voice was low, dangerous. Maybe if Mom and Dad had given you the business instead of me, none of this would have happened. Is that what you want to hear? That you were right all along? What I want, I said quietly, is for you to face what you've done. No more manipulation, no more lies. My phone buzzed, a text from Ryder. All set for tomorrow's meeting with your parents. Documents ready. Tomorrow at noon, I told Mickey. Dad's office. Either you tell them or I will. He called after me as I walked away, but I didn't turn back. Outside, I leaned against my car, hands shaking as I dialed Ryder's number. How'd it go? He asked. 4.2 million, Ryder. He lost $4.2 million. Jesus, that's more than we thought. He wanted me to loan him $500,000 more, said he could double it in 6 months. Ryder was quiet for a moment. You okay? I watched through the window as Mickey ordered another coffee, his hands shaking as he reached for his wallet. Yeah, I said. For the first time in my life, I think I am. Dad's office still smelled like leather and coffee, but the usual bustle of employees was gone. Empty desks stretched across the floor, personal items already cleared out. My heels clicked against the hardwood as I made my way to the conference room. Isabel! Mom rushed to hug me. I kept my arms at my sides. Oh, sweetheart, thank you for coming. Dad stood by the window, looking older than I remembered. He turned, managing a weak smile. You look well. Success does that. I set my briefcase on the table. Where's Makey? Running late, Mom said quickly. Traffic, you know how it is. No. I checked my watch. He's not coming, is he? The silence answered my question. I pulled out my laptop and the documents Ryder had prepared. Well then, I guess I'll start. Start what? Dad asked, finally taking a seat. Isabel, if this is about the loan… This isn't about a loan. I connected my laptop to the projector. This is about the truth. The first slide appeared, a breakdown of the company's finances over the past 3 years. Red numbers dominated the screen. What is this? Mom's voice trembled. This is what your perfect son did to the family business. I clicked through the slides. Unauthorized loans, forged signatures, casino debts paid with company funds. Dad's face went pale. That's not possible. Makey wouldn't… Here's his signature on a loan for $800,000. Click. Here's your forged signature on another for $1.2 million. Click. And here's the casino's record of his losses over the past 18 months. Mom started crying. Dad just stared at the screen. The total damage, I continued, is $4.2 million. Not the $3 million he told you about. And that's not counting the legal implications of the fraud. Why are you doing this? Mom whispered. We asked for help, not this. Because you need to see what your favoritism created. I turned off the projector. You gave him everything: the business, the trust fund, your unconditional support, and he repaid you by destroying it all. We made mistakes, Dad admitted quietly. With both of you. No. I shook my head. You made choices. Every time you praised his mediocrity while ignoring my achievements. Every time you funded his failures while I worked my way through college. Those weren't mistakes. They were choices. The door opened. Mickey stood there, tie askew, eyes bloodshot. Sorry I'm late, he mumbled. Just in time, I said. I was just showing Mom and Dad your creative accounting. He slumped into a chair. I was going to tell them. When? After you got another loan to gamble away? Mickey, Dad's voice was barely audible. Is this true? All of it? Mickey nodded, staring at the table. The investors are pulling out, I continued. The bank is calling in the loans. You have maybe 2 weeks before they force a liquidation. There must be something we can do, Mom pleaded. Isabel, your company is not your safety net. I closed my laptop. I'm not here to save the business. Then why are you here? Mickey demanded. To gloat? I'm here because you need to understand something. I stood up, looking at each of them. Success isn't about who has the most natural talent, or who gets the most support, or who your parents believe in more. It's about what you do with what you have. I pulled out one final document, my company's latest valuation report. My company is worth $30 million. I built it while you were all telling me I'd never amount to anything, and I did it without stealing, lying, or gambling away other people's futures. So you're just going to let us lose everything? Mickey asked. Your own family? No, I'm going to let you face the consequences of your actions. All of you. I gathered my things. But I will make you an offer. They leaned forward eagerly. I'll help you negotiate with the bank, help you salvage what's left of your reputation, but only if you agree to my terms. Anything, Mom said quickly. Mickey goes to addiction counseling. Dad, you step down and let a professional management team handle the restructuring. And Mom, I met her eyes. You acknowledge, publicly, at the next family gathering, exactly how you treated me all these years. The room was silent except for Mom's quiet sobs. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them. And if we don't, Mickey asked, then you can explain to the board and the police where all that money went. I walked to the door, pausing with my hand on the handle. You have until tomorrow to decide. Call me when you're ready to face reality. The sound of my heels echoed through the empty office as I walked away, leaving them to sit with their choices. I was having coffee at my old high school hangout when Milena walked in. 5 years hadn't changed her much. Same perfectly styled hair, same designer handbag. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Isabel, oh my God. She rushed over, arms outstretched. I heard you were back in town. Milena. I didn't stand for the hug. Let me guess. Mickey told you? Her smile faltered slightly. Actually, yes. We've been seeing each other. Of course they had. My brother's ex-best friend's girlfriend, now his current flame. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sit, I gestured to the empty chair. I'm sure you have plenty to tell me. She settled in, fidgeting with her coffee cup. Look, about Mickey, save it. I already know everything. No, you don't. She glanced around before leaning closer. I'm the one who sent the anonymous tip to the board about the missing money. That got my attention. What? I saw the receipts, Isabel. The casino visits, the wire transfers. He was spiraling and nobody would listen to me. She pulled out her phone, showing me texts from Mickey. He promised he'd stop, but he didn't. He said he had a system, that he just needed one big win to fix everything. She wiped away a tear. I tried to help him, but he just kept taking more and more. The waitress brought more coffee. I studied Milena's face, looking for any sign of deception. Why are you telling me this? Because I remember how they treated you, how we all treated you. She reached for my hand. I pulled back. I was there when your mom told everyone not to attend your business launch, said it would only encourage your delusions of grandeur. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. We've discussed your terms. Please come to the house tonight. They're meeting tonight, aren't they? Milena asked. To discuss your offer? I looked up sharply. How do you know about that? Makey called me after your meeting. He was upset. She hesitated. He's not planning to accept your terms, Isabel. He thinks he can find another way. Another way to what? Steal more money? He mentioned something about offshore accounts, private investors. She pulled out a USB drive. That's why I brought you these. Bank statements, emails, everything I could find. I stared at the drive. Why now, Milena? Why help me after all these years? Because I was wrong. We all were. She stood up, gathering her things. And because someone needs to stop him before he hurts more people. As she turned to leave, I called after her. Does he know you're here? No, and he can't know. Please. Her eyes were pleading. Just be careful tonight. He's not the same person we grew up with. After she left, I plugged the drive into my laptop. Dozens of files appeared. Correspondence with shady investment firms, screenshots of gambling debts, and something that made my blood run cold. A draft email to my company's board of directors, full of fabricated allegations about my business practices. I called Ryder immediately. He's planning to sabotage my company, I said when he answered, trying to destroy my reputation before I can expose him. Jesus. Ryder paused. Want me to come over there? No, but have our lawyers ready. And call security. Make sure Meki can't access our building. Already done. What about tonight? I looked at the time. 2 hours until the family meeting. I'm going. But first, I need to make a stop. The bank manager was expecting me. I'd called ahead. Ms. Walker? He smiled, shaking my hand. I understand you want to discuss your brother's accounts. Actually, I placed Milena's USB drive on his desk. I want to discuss fraud prevention. An hour later, I pulled up to my parents' house. Makey's car was already there, along with Dad's. Through the window, I could see them in the living room, heads bent together in discussion. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Milena. Whatever happens tonight, remember you're not the one who needs to be ashamed. I grabbed my briefcase and walked to the door. Before I could knock, it swung open. Mom stood there, eyes red from crying. Isabel, she said softly, please come in. We need to talk. Behind her, Makey sat in Dad's armchair, a familiar smirk playing on his lips. He thought he had a plan. He thought he could outmaneuver me one last time. He had no idea what was coming. I stepped inside, ready for the final confrontation. Sometimes the hardest battles are fought in the places we once called home. Before we start, I said, setting my briefcase on the coffee table, I had an interesting conversation with the bank today. Makey's smirk faltered slightly. We've discussed your terms, Mom interrupted, perched nervously on the edge of the sofa. And we think, no, let's hear what the bank had to say. Makey leaned forward, trying to maintain his composure. I'm sure it was fascinating. Oh, it was. I pulled out several documents, especially the part about the second set of books you've been keeping. The offshore accounts, the shell companies. Dad's head snapped up. What? Did you really think I wouldn't find out? I spread the papers across the table. Or did you think you could blackmail me into silence with those fake allegations you were planning to send to my board? Mom gasped. Makey's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered. Really? Should we call Milena? I'm sure she'd be happy to explain. He stood up so quickly his chair tipped over. You talked to Milena? She showed me everything, Makey. The gambling debts, the fraudulent accounts, the plans to frame me for embezzlement if I didn't help you cover it up. You're lying. Am I? I pulled out my phone, playing a recording. Makey's voice discussing offshore transfers with someone named Marcus. Dad put his head in his hands. Mom started crying again. It's not what it sounds like, Makey insisted. I was trying to save the company. By stealing from it, by planning to destroy my reputation, I turned to our parents. Still think he deserves another chance? We could. Mom looked desperately between us. We could find a way to fix this, as a family. There's nothing to fix. I stood up. The bank has frozen all accounts pending investigation. The board has been notified and the police. I checked my watch. Should be here any minute. You called the police? Mom shrieked. On your own brother? No, Mom. The bank called the police on a criminal who happened to be my brother. Makey lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You can't do this to me. Let go of me. My voice was steel. Or what? You'll call your precious Ryder? Have him save you again? Dad finally stood up. Makey, let her go. Don't you see what she's doing? Makey's grip tightened. She's destroying this family. No. I yanked free. You did that all by yourself. Blue lights flashed outside. Mom ran to the window. Please, she begged. Isabel, stop this. We can work something out. Like you worked it out when I needed you? When I begged for support, for acknowledgement, for just one moment of the attention you showered on him? We made mistakes. No, I cut her off. You made choices, and now you're all going to live with them. The doorbell rang. 2 police officers stood outside. Mr. Makey Walker? One called through the door. Makey looked wildly around the room like a trapped animal. Dad, please. Dad just shook his head, tears in his eyes. I'll destroy you, Makey hissed at me. Everything you've built will still be standing long after you're gone. I opened the door. Officers, he's in here. Everything happened quickly after that. The handcuffs, the rights being read, Mom's hysterical crying, Dad's silent tears. As they led Makey out, he turned back one last time. You think this makes you better than me? No, I met his eyes. I always was better than you. They just couldn't see it. After the police car pulled away, I gathered my things. What happens now? Dad asked quietly. Now? The company goes into receivership. You'll probably lose the house, your reputation. I shrugged. Well, that's already gone. And you? Mom's voice was small. Will you help us? I paused at the door. My offer stands. Professional management team. Public acknowledgement of how you treated me. And Makey gets help. Real help. In prison or out. That's it? After everything we've done for you? I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Everything you've done for me? You mean like telling me I was worthless? Like choosing him over me at every turn? Like making me feel like I didn't deserve to exist in this family? They stood there, finally seeing me. Really seeing me, for the first time. I'll have my lawyers contact you tomorrow about the restructuring. I opened the door. Goodbye, Mom, Dad. Isabel, Dad called after me. I'm sorry, for everything. I didn't turn around. I know, but sorry isn't enough anymore. The door closed behind me with a final click, leaving them alone with the wreckage of their choices. 3 days after Makey's arrest, Mom called a family meeting at Aunt Sarah's house. The same house where, years ago, she'd first called me the useless daughter. Fitting, really. Ryder pulled up to the curb. You sure you want to do this? No. I smoothed my dress. But it's time. The living room was packed with relatives. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all the people who'd witnessed my humiliation over the years. They fell silent as I walked in. Isabel. Aunt Sarah hugged me awkwardly. We've all heard, the news about how my brother committed fraud, or about how I turned him in. More uncomfortable silence. Mom stood up from her spot on the couch. I called everyone here because, her voice cracked, because we owe you an apology, Isabel, all of us. Mom, no, let me finish. She squared her shoulders. For years, we treated you like you were less than Makey. We dismissed your dreams, belittled your achievements, made you feel unwelcome in your own family. Uncle Robert shifted in his chair. Hallie, maybe this isn't the place. This is exactly the place, Dad cut in. This is where it started, isn't it? At that dinner when we all laughed at Isabel's business plans? I remembered that night. I'd presented my first business concept to the family, hoping for support. Instead, they'd turned it into a joke, passing around my carefully prepared proposal like it was a comedy script. We were wrong, Mom continued. So terribly wrong. While we were praising Makey's failures, you were building something extraordinary, and we were too blind to see it. Too proud, Aunt Sarah corrected. We were too proud to admit we'd backed the wrong horse. I'm not here for apologies, I said, my voice steady. I'm here to set things straight. I pulled out my phone, pulling up the family group chat. Remember this thread from 3 years ago, when I invited everyone to my company's launch party? I started scrolling. 14 people said they were too busy. 8 didn't bother responding. Only Daria showed up. We didn't think, Uncle Robert started. That it would succeed? I finished. Or that it mattered. Well, let me show you what you missed. I connected my phone to the TV, starting a slideshow. Pictures of my company's growth, news articles about our success, awards ceremonies they'd never attended. While you were all celebrating Makey's latest venture, I was building this. While you were covering up his mistakes, I was creating jobs, real jobs for real people. The photos continued. My first office, the team growing, the new headquarters. Last week, before all this happened, we closed a deal worth $15 million. I let that sink in. That's 5 times what Makey lost, what your perfect son gambled away. Mom was crying openly now. Dad couldn't meet my eyes. But this isn't about money, I continued. It's about respect, about family, about choosing to see only what you wanted to see instead of what was really there. What do you want from us? Aunt Sarah asked quietly. Nothing. Not anymore. I turned off the TV. I'm not here for revenge or redemption. I'm here to show you exactly what you missed out on, what you threw away because you couldn't see past your own prejudices. Please, Mom stepped forward. Give us a chance to make it right. Make it right? I laughed. You can't make this right. You can't undo years of damage with one public apology. Then why are you here? Uncle Robert demanded. Because someone needs to say it. I looked around the room. Your golden boy is a fraud. Your perfect son is a criminal. And your useless daughter, she's the only one who can help you pick up the pieces. The silence was deafening. My lawyers will handle the restructuring of the company. Dad, you'll step down next week. A professional team will take over. I gathered my things. And Makey will get the help he needs. In prison. And us? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. What about us? I paused at the door, looking back at my family. Really looking at them. The proud aunts and uncles who'd dismissed me. The cousins who'd followed Makey's lead in mocking my dreams. The parents who'd failed to see what was right in front of them. That's up to you. I opened the door. But know this. I'm done trying to prove myself to people who never wanted to see me succeed in the first place. Ryder was waiting outside. How'd it go? Exactly as expected. I got into the car. Take me home. As we drove away, I watched my family through the rearview mirror, still gathered in Aunt Sarah's living room, finally facing the truth about who they'd chosen to believe in, and who they'd chosen to ignore. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about walking away and letting people live with the consequences of their choices. The knock on my office door came just as I was finishing a conference call. Daria poked her head in. Someone here to see you, she said, her expression unreadable. It's Meki. I looked up sharply. Here? How did he? Released this morning. She stepped aside, revealing my brother in the doorway. He looked different, thinner. The designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and a button-down shirt, the arrogance gone from his stance. Hey, sis. His voice was quiet. Got a minute? I nodded to Daria. She left, closing the door behind her. Nice office, Mickey said, looking around. Better than Dad's old one. What do you want? He sat down, hands clasped in his lap. I've been in therapy, real therapy, not just the court-mandated stuff. Good for you. I learned something interesting. He met my eyes. About why I did what I did. Why I couldn't stand to see you succeed. Mickey, please, let me finish. He pulled out a folded paper from his pocket. I wrote this in therapy. Must have rewritten it 50 times. I took the letter but didn't open it. I was jealous, he continued. Not of your success, of your strength. You built something real, something lasting. All I did was pretend to be what everyone wanted me to be. You had every advantage, I said. Every opportunity. I know. And I wasted them all trying to live up to an image I couldn't maintain. He gestured to the letter. Read it, please. I unfolded the paper. His handwriting was different, less flashy, more honest somehow. Dear Isabel, I read aloud. I'm sorry. Not just for the money or the lies or the attempted blackmail. I'm sorry for every time I made you feel small to make myself feel big. For every dream I mocked because I was afraid you'd achieve it. For every moment I stole from you because I couldn't stand in my own spotlight. My voice cracked. I stopped reading. Keep going, he said softly. You were always the strong one, I continued reading. The brave one. While I was taking shortcuts and looking for easy wins, you were doing the real work, building something meaningful. I didn't hate you for being less than me. I hated you for being more than I could ever be. I set the letter down. Why are you really here, Mickey? Because I owe you more than an apology. He pulled out another document. This is my resignation from the family business. Complete divestment of my shares. I'm signing everything over to the restructuring team. You don't have to. Yes, I do. He placed the document on my desk. It's part of making amends. Real amends, not just words. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Is he there? They don't know you're here, do they? He shook his head. I needed to do this on my own. No safety net, no family pressure, just me. Finally being honest. I studied his face, looking for any trace of the old manipulation. Found none. What will you do now? Start over. Entry-level job at a friend's company, small apartment, learning to live with who I am, not who everyone wanted me to be. He stood up. I don't expect forgiveness, Isabel. I just needed you to know that I see you now. Really see you. As he turned to leave, I called out, Meki? He paused. That friend's company, they need any investment advice? A small, genuine smile, so different from his old smirk. No, I'm working in their mailroom, learning what real work feels like. After he left, Ryder came in. Everything okay? I handed him Maki's letter and resignation. What do you think? He read them carefully. Seems genuine. Prison changes people. Or maybe it just shows them who they really are. I picked up my phone, typing a response to Mom. He's gone, but he's okay. You think he'll make it? Ryder asked. I looked out my office window at Meki, walking down the street, head high but shoulders relaxed. No pretense, no performance. Just a man finally learning to stand on his own. Yeah, I said. I think he will. My phone buzzed again. A text from Meki. Thank you. Not for the money you didn't give me, but for the wake-up call I needed. You were always the best of us. I smiled, typing back. Prove it. Not to me, to yourself. Sometimes redemption doesn't come in grand gestures or public apologies. Sometimes it comes in quiet moments of truth, in the courage to start over, in the strength to face who you really are. And sometimes, just sometimes, it comes in letting go of who you were supposed to become who you were meant to be all along.
The day I chose Alice was the day my mother stopped calling me her daughter. I didn't expect it to happen quite like that, in the middle of our family's marble-floored foyer, with the crystal chandelier casting judgmental shadows across her face. My name is Sierra, and until that moment, I'd been the perfect Blair daughter. Ivy League educated, successful in the family business, and, according to my mother, just one good marriage away from completing the picture-perfect life she'd planned for me. You can't be serious, my mother said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. Adoption? Have you lost your mind? I stood my ground, though my hands were trembling. I've met her, Mom. Alice is incredible. She's brilliant, kind, and she's not blood, my father interrupted, emerging from his study. His presence filled the room like a storm cloud. The Blair name means something, Sierra. We don't just take in strays. The word strays hit me like a physical blow. I'd seen Alice's file 3 months ago, a 12-year-old girl who'd lost her parents in a car accident. The moment I met her, something clicked. She had this way of looking at the world that made everything seem possible. Dad, if you'd just meet her. This discussion is over, he said, turning back toward his study. Either come to your senses or what? I challenged, my voice stronger than I felt. You'll cut me off? Disinherit me? Go ahead. My mother gasped. My sister Natalie, who'd been hovering in the doorway, stepped forward. Sierra, please, think about what you're doing. I have thought about it. For months. Alice needs a family and We are your family! My mother's voice cracked. Everything we've built, everything we've worked for. You'd throw it all away for some what, Mom? Some orphan? I pulled out my phone and showed them Alice's picture. Look at her. Really look at her. But they wouldn't. My mother turned away and my father's study door slammed shut. Natalie reached for my arm. Give them time. Maybe if you wait. I can't wait. The adoption hearing is next week. I took a deep breath. I'm not asking for permission. I'm telling you I'm becoming a mother. Then you're no daughter of mine. My mother's words fell like ice. Get out. I'd prepared myself for resistance, but this felt like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed. Mom, out! I walked to the door, my heels clicking against the marble floor. Each step echoed with finality. At the threshold, I turned back one last time. You know what's funny? Alice asked me yesterday what her new grandparents would be like. She was so excited to meet you. My mother's face twitched, but she held her ground. Natalie looked between us, tears in her eyes. Nat, I said softly, you're welcome to meet your niece any time. The drive home was a blur. I pulled into my driveway and sat there, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. My phone buzzed, a text from the adoption agency confirming tomorrow's pre-placement visit. I opened my gallery and found the video from last week. Alice sat cross-legged on the floor of the group home, explaining her science project to me. Her eyes lit up as she described how she'd built a small wind turbine from recycled materials. And see, Sierra, she'd said, pointing to the tiny blades spinning in front of a fan. It actually works. Do you think when I come home we could build a bigger one? When I come home. Not if. When. I wiped my eyes and typed a quick response to the agency. Looking forward to tomorrow's visit. Everything's ready. Because it was. The guest room had been transformed into a space for a 12-year-old girl who loved science and art. The walls were painted her favourite shade of blue, and a desk by the window waited for her projects. On the bookshelf, engineering books sat next to Harry Potter. My phone buzzed again. Natalie. They'll come around. They have to. But Sierra, are you sure about this? I thought about Alice's smile. About the way she'd hugged me goodbye last week, about how she'd whispered, "See you soon, Mom," when she thought I couldn't hear. More sure than I've ever been about anything, I texted back. Tomorrow I'd sign the papers that would make me Alice's mother. My parents might have written me out of their story, but Alice and I? We were about to write our own. And somehow, watching the last rays of sunlight fade from the sky, I knew that would be enough. More than enough. It would be everything. Mom, I think I solved it. Alice burst into my home office, waving a notebook filled with calculations. 3 years had passed since the adoption, and my 15-year-old daughter had grown into a force of nature. I pushed away from my laptop, grateful for the interruption from quarterly reports. Solved what, sweetie? The solar panel efficiency problem I've been working on. Look! She spread her notes across my desk, pointing excitedly at diagrams. If we adjust the angle and add this coating I developed... The doorbell interrupted her explanation. Through the window, I spotted Natalie's car in the driveway. Alice's face fell slightly. Is that Aunt Natalie again? Why don't you head upstairs and finish your homework? I'll handle this. She gathered her notes, hesitating at the door. Tell her I said hi. I guess. These surprise visits from Natalie had become more frequent lately. I opened the front door to find my sister clutching her designer purse like a shield. Mom's sick, she blurted out before I could speak. My heart skipped. How sick? Nothing serious, just the flu. But she's been asking about Alice. Natalie stepped inside, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. She saw the article about Alice winning the state science fair. They have Google Alerts set up for us now. I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. Sierra, please. They're trying in their way. Natalie sank onto the couch. Dad's business is struggling, the market's changing, and he's... Well, you know how he is about change. I did know. The man who refused to modernize his email system was probably having a hell of a time adapting to current market demands. What do they want, Nat? Because if they're expecting me to come crawling back... No, nothing like that. Just... maybe bring Alice to Sunday dinner? Let them meet her properly? I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. After 3 years of pretending she doesn't exist, after missing every birthday, every achievement, people can change, Natalie insisted. Quinton's been talking to Dad, trying to... Mom, is everything okay? Alice stood at the top of the stairs, concern etched on her face. Natalie turned, and I saw her eyes widen. The gangly 12-year-old in the adoption photos had grown into a poised teenager with bright eyes and her father's old lab coat that I'd gotten her for Christmas. Alice, wow, you've grown so much. That tends to happen in 3 years, Alice replied coolly, descending the stairs. I heard you mention Sunday dinner. Don't worry about us, we have plans. We do? I asked. Yeah, remember, Lane's coming over to help me with the prototype, and you promised to make your famous lasagna. I hadn't promised any such thing, but I played along. Right, of course. Natalie's face fell. Another time, maybe. Alice reached the bottom of the stairs and stood beside me. You know what's funny? I used to dream about having grandparents who'd be proud of me. Now, I'm kind of glad they stayed away. Because Mom, she squeezed my hand. She's been enough. More than enough. Natalie's eyes filled with tears. Alice, they made mistakes, but... Mistakes? Alice's voice sharpened. Is that what we're calling it? They threw their daughter out for choosing to love someone who needed love. That's not a mistake, that's a choice. Alice, I whispered, squeezing her hand back. No, Mom, they need to hear this. She turned back to Natalie. Tell them I'm not interested in their guilt or their late attempts at connection. Tell them I'm too busy revolutionizing solar energy efficiency and making my mom proud. Natalie stood, clutching her purse tighter. I'll tell them you're both doing well. After she left, I pulled Alice into a hug. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. She pulled back, her eyes fierce. Nobody gets to hurt you anymore, not even them. Especially not them. When did you get so protective? Learned from the best. She grinned suddenly. But you do actually have to make lasagna now. Lane really is coming over to help with the prototype. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Deal. But first, show me these calculations you were excited about. As Alice launched into her explanation, my phone buzzed with a text from Natalie. Dad's company lost another major contract. He's desperate but won't admit it. Please think about Sunday dinner. I turned my phone face down and focused on my daughter's animated description of solar panel coefficients. Let them worry about their precious family business. Alice and I had built something far more valuable, a family based on choice, not obligation. But as I watched her sketch diagrams in the air, a small part of me wondered if karma wasn't already setting its wheels in motion. After all, the brilliant young scientist they'd rejected might just hold the key to saving everything they held dear. They're filing for bankruptcy protection, Quinton said over coffee. My brother-in-law had suggested meeting at a quiet cafe across town, away from prying eyes. Your father's too proud to admit it publicly, but the company's bleeding money. I stirred my latte, watching the foam swirl. How bad? Bad enough that they're selling the summer house, the one in Martha's Vineyard. That hit hard. I'd spent every summer there until the estrangement. Dad would rather sell his kidney than that house. Times change, Quinton leaned forward. Look, I know you don't owe them anything, but you understand modern business better than anyone in the family. If you could just... Mom, Alice's voice cut through the cafe's quiet buzz. She stood at our table, still in her lab coat from her university internship, Lane hovering uncertainly behind her. Uncle Quinton. Alice, Quinton stood, smiling warmly. I haven't seen you since never, she finished coldly. Because you never visited either. Lane stepped forward, placing a protective hand on Alice's shoulder. We can come back later. No, stay. I gestured to the empty chairs. Quinton was just leaving. Actually, Alice said, sliding into a seat, maybe he should hear this. She pulled out her tablet. Lane and I just came from the lab. We've perfected the solar coating. My heart skipped. She'd been working on this project for months, refusing to show anyone but Lane and me until it was ready. The what? Quinton asked. A nanotech coating that increases solar panel efficiency by 40%, Lane explained, his eyes bright with excitement. It's revolutionary. Alice pulled up graphs and charts. We've run all the tests. It works. And the manufacturing cost is minimal compared to the energy output increase. I watched Quinton's face as understanding dawned. This This could save millions in energy costs for large-scale operations. Like, say, a manufacturing company struggling to keep up with rising energy costs. Alice's smile was sharp. One that still uses outdated power systems in all its facilities. Quinton stared at her. You know about the company's problems. I know everything. Alice swiped through more documents. I've been monitoring the situation. Did you really think Mum wouldn't keep tabs on her father's life's work? I reached for her hand under the table, squeezing gently. Alice, we're presenting this at the Clean Energy Summit next month, she continued. Every major company in the industry will be there, including your biggest competitors. Quinton's coffee sat forgotten. Alice, if you're suggesting what I think, I'm not suggesting anything. She stood, gathering her things. I'm just letting you know that solutions exist. Whether pride allows certain people to see them, well, that's not my problem. Lane helped her with her coat, trying to hide a smile. We should head back to the lab, Alice. The final testing sequence. Right, she kissed my cheek. Don't work too late, Mom. Movie night, remember? After they left, Quinton let out a long breath. She's brilliant. Yes, she is. And she did this for you. To prove them wrong. I shook my head. No, she did this because she's passionate about sustainable energy. The fact that it might help the family business, that's just karma. They should know about this. Then tell them. I stood, gathering my purse. Tell them their granddaughter, the one they rejected, might hold the key to saving everything. Tell them she did it without their name, their money, or their approval. Sierra. Movie night with my daughter, remember? I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Quinton, the summer house? Tell them not to sell it yet. Something tells me they might need liquid assets for technology upgrades soon. That evening, curled up on the couch with Alice watching her favourite sci-fi movie, I finally asked the question that had been burning in my mind. How long have you been working on this specifically for the company? She paused the movie, turning to face me. Since Aunt Natalie's visit 3 months ago, Lane helped me research their energy consumption patterns. Did you know they spend 4 times the industry average on power? Your grandfather isn't big on efficiency. Well, he's going to have to be. Her expression softened. I didn't do it for them, Mom. I did it because it's good technology that could help a lot of companies. But if they want it, they'll have to come to you. Exactly. She grinned suddenly. Want to be my +1 at the summit presentation? Wouldn't miss it for the world. I pulled her close, remembering the 12-year-old who built tiny wind turbines. You know I'm proud of you, right? Not because of this, but because of who you are. I know, Mom. She unpaused the movie. Now shush. This is the best part. But as the sci-fi drama unfolded on screen, I couldn't help thinking about another drama about to unfold. One where pride would face off against necessity, and where karma might finally come full circle. The family estate looked exactly the same, right down to the pretentious lion door knockers. I hadn't planned to return here, but Natalie's frantic call had left little choice. Family emergency meeting, she'd said. Dad's making some kind of announcement. Alice squeezed my hand as we stood at the door. Ready? Are you? Born ready. She smoothed her blazer, professional, polished, nothing like the rejected orphan they probably imagined. Besides, Lane's on standby if we need a quick escape. The door opened before we could knock. Natalie stood there, eyes wide. You came. Both of you. Let's not make it a bigger deal than it is, I said, stepping inside. The foyer still smelled of Mom's favourite potpourri. Family portraits lined the walls, a timeline of our lives, stopping abruptly 3 years ago. Alice studied them with clinical interest. Interesting gap in the family history, she murmured. Voices drifted from the living room. I recognized Dad's agitated tone, Mom's attempts to soothe him, and other voices. Board members, probably. Sierra. Mom stood in the doorway, looking older than I remembered. Her eyes fixed on Alice. And Alice. Mrs. Blair, Alice replied coolly. Lovely home. The chandelier's gorgeous. Austrian crystal, right? Though the energy consumption must be astronomical. Mom flinched. Please come in. Your father's about to start. The living room fell silent as we entered. Dad stood by the fireplace, his usual power position, but something was off. His shoulders sagged, his hair greyer than ever. Sierra. He nodded stiffly. I wasn't sure you'd come. Natalie said it was important. It is. He cleared his throat, addressing the room. As you know, we've faced some challenges lately. Market changes, rising costs. Just say it, Kingsley, one board member interrupted. We're sinking. We're not sinking, Dad snapped. We're adapting, which is why I've called this meeting. I'm announcing my retirement. Gasps filled the room. Mum grabbed the nearest chair for support. The board will begin searching for a new CEO immediately, Dad continued. Someone who understands modern markets, someone who can… Actually, Alice's voice cut through the shock like a laser. I have a better idea. All eyes turned to her. She stood, pulling out her tablet with the same confidence she showed in the lab. Alice, I warned softly. Trust me, Mom. She connected her tablet to the room's projector. Mr. Blair, grandfather if you prefer, though you haven't earned that title, your company's main problem isn't leadership. It's inefficiency. Graphs appeared on the screen. Energy consumption rates, cost analyses, projection models. Your facilities use outdated systems that bleed money, but there's a solution. She pulled up her research. A proprietary nanotech coating that could cut your energy costs by 40%. The board members leaned forward. Dad's face reddened. Who do you think you are? He began. I'm the person who developed this technology, Alice cut in. The same person you rejected because I wasn't blood. Ironic, isn't it? This is preposterous, Dad sputtered. You're just a brilliant scientist, a board member finished. I read about your work in Tech Monthly. That coating, it's revolutionary, Alice smiled. Thank you. We're presenting at the Clean Energy Summit next month. Every major company will be there, including your competitors. The room erupted in urgent whispers. Dad gripped the mantle, knuckles white. What do you want? He asked finally. Want? Alice looked genuinely surprised. I don't want anything. I'm simply presenting options. You can either swallow your pride and work with me, or watch your life's work crumble because you couldn't see past your own prejudices. Mom stepped forward. Alice, please, we made mistakes. Mistakes? I stood beside my daughter. You threw us away, and now you want her help? The company's not just about us, Natalie interjected. Hundreds of employees depend on it. Alice's expression softened slightly. I know. That's why I'm here. But understand this. If we do this, we do it my way. No compromises, no conditions. Dad opened his mouth, closed it, then nodded once. Good. Alice gathered her things. Have your lawyers contact Mum's office to set up a meeting. We'll discuss terms then. As we turned to leave, she paused at the door. Oh, and grandmother, that chandelier. Switch to LED bulbs. Small changes make big differences. In the car, I finally found my voice. That was satisfying? She grinned. Just wait until they read my terms. Lane helped me draft them. They're going to love the environmental compliance clauses. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Mum, they hurt you. Hurt us. But instead of revenge, I'm offering salvation. She pulled out her phone to text Lane. Sometimes, the best revenge is forcing people to face their own failures, and then helping them fix them. I started the car, glancing one last time at the house. Through the window, I could see them all still standing there, shocked into silence by the hurricane that was my daughter. Ready to go home? I asked. Actually, she smiled. I think we just started something much bigger than going home. The conference room felt like a pressure cooker. On one side sat my father, mother, and 3 board members. On our side, Alice, Lane, our lawyer, and me. The contract lay between us like a loaded weapon. This is absurd, Dad exploded, throwing down his reading glasses. 51% control of environmental initiatives, mandatory board positions for both of you, complete restructuring of our energy systems within 18 months. Those are my terms, Alice replied calmly. The technology alone will save you millions annually. The restructuring will position you as an industry leader in sustainable manufacturing. We've operated the same way for 40 years, and that's exactly why you're failing. Alice pulled up projections on the wall screen. Your energy costs are crippling you. Your competitors are going green while you're burning money on outdated systems. Lane stepped in, his voice steady. We've run the numbers extensively. Even with implementation costs, you'll see return on investment within 2 years. Return on investment? Mom's voice quavered. This isn't just about money. This is our family legacy. Family? I couldn't help but laugh. Now you care about family? Sierra, our lawyer warned softly. No, let's talk about family, Alice said, standing. 3 years ago, you threw away your daughter because she chose to love someone who needed love. Now you're facing bankruptcy and suddenly family matters. The room fell silent. Even Dad couldn't meet her eyes. Here's what's going to happen, Alice continued. You'll sign this contract. I'll save your company. But understand this. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for the hundreds of employees who depend on their paychecks, for the environment. And yes, for my mother, who still checks your company's stock prices every morning because despite everything, she cares about her father's life's work. I felt tears prick my eyes. Dad looked at me sharply. You still follow the company? Every day, I admitted. Just because you stopped being my father doesn't mean I stopped being your daughter. Mum made a small, broken sound. The coating technology is just the beginning, Alice pressed on. I have plans for complete modernization, solar integration, waste reduction systems, but it happens on my terms. Or what? One board member asked. Or I take it to your competitors. They're already interested. She smiled. Very interested. Dad stood abruptly, pacing to the window. You're blackmailing us. No, I'm offering you salvation. The choice to take it is yours. Lane pulled out another document. We've also drafted a press release announcing the partnership. The market would respond very favourably to a family reconciliation story combined with green innovation. You've thought of everything, Dad said quietly. I learned from you, actually. Alice's voice softened slightly. You always said business is about leverage. Well, here we are. The board members huddled together, whispering urgently. Mom kept looking between Dad and me, her perfectly manicured hands twisting in her lap. Finally, Dad turned from the window. If, and I mean if, we agree to this, what guarantees do we have that you won't just take control and destroy everything? Because unlike you, Alice replied, I understand that family isn't about blood, it's about choice, and I'm choosing to help, despite everything. The question is, are you choosing to let me? The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Then Dad did something I'd never seen before. He sat down heavily, looking suddenly old. Where do I sign? Dad! Natalie burst out from the doorway where she'd been listening. You can't be serious. We don't have a choice, he said quietly. And maybe it's time we admitted that. Alice pushed the contract forward. As Dad reached for a pen, she added, One more thing. Mom gets her old office back, the corner one with the view. I stared at her. I hadn't asked for that. And Sunday dinners, she continued. Not every week, but sometimes, if Mom wants, because this only works if we actually try to be a family. Mom started crying openly now. Dad's hand shook as he signed. Welcome to the future of Blair Industries, Alice said, but her voice was gentle now. Let's build something better, together. As we gathered our things to leave, Mom caught my arm. Sierra, would you like to have lunch sometime? Just us? I looked at Alice, who nodded almost imperceptibly. Okay, I said. But not at the club. There's this little cafe near my office. Anywhere, Mom whispered. Anywhere you want. Outside, Lane hugged Alice tightly. You were amazing in there. Thanks for having my back. She turned to me. Mom, you okay? I pulled her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo mixed with lab chemicals. You didn't have to add that part about Sunday dinners. Yes, I did. She pulled back, eyes bright. Because sometimes fixing things means more than just business plans and contracts. Sometimes it means giving people a chance to be better than they were. Looking back at the building, I wondered if she was right. If maybe, just maybe, karma wasn't about punishment after all. Maybe it was about giving people the opportunity to face their mistakes and choose a different path. "They're sabotaging us," Lane burst into my office waving his tablet. "The old guard in production is deliberately slowing down implementation." I looked up from my computer where I'd been reviewing the first phase of Alice's modernization plan. "What do you mean?" "They're losing equipment orders, scheduling installation crews for the wrong dates, claiming system incompatibilities that don't exist." He pulled up a spreadsheet. "We're 3 weeks behind schedule." "Dad's people," I muttered. "Of course they're resistant." My office door opened again, and Alice stormed in, her lab coat fluttering. "Did you see the memo? They're trying to modify my coating formula without consulting me." "What?" I grabbed my phone to call Dad, but it already showed 3 missed calls from Natalie. "Sierra," she said when I called back. "It's bad. Dad's old VP of operations is rallying people against the changes. They're saying Alice is too young, too inexperienced. Too much of an outsider," I finished bitterly. "You need to come to the main facility. Now." The factory floor was chaos when we arrived. Workers clustered in groups, arguing loudly. The installation team sat idle beside crates of new solar panels, while Dad's VP, Richard, held court near the control room. "These changes will cost jobs," he was saying. "This girl thinks she can waltz in and—" "This girl is saving your jobs," Lane shouted, pushing forward. Alice grabbed my arm. "Mom, look at the control panel." I followed her gaze. The main power systems were running at dangerous levels, well above normal parameters. "They're overloading the old system to prove it's more reliable," she whispered. "But they've miscalculated. If those readings are accurate—" A loud pop echoed through the facility, followed by cascading sparks from the main electrical panel. Emergency lights flashed as the backup system engaged. "Everyone out!" I shouted. "Emergency shutdown!" Workers scattered as smoke began pouring from the control room. Alice sprinted toward it, Lane close behind. "Alice, no!" I tried to grab her, but she was already punching numbers into the backup terminal. "The main system's going to blow if we don't redirect power now." Her fingers flew over the keyboard. "Lane, cut power to sectors 3 through 7. "On it!" I grabbed a fire extinguisher as more sparks flew. Through the chaos, I saw Dad and Mom rushing in, faces pale. "What happened?" Dad demanded. "Your people happened," I shot back. "They overloaded the system trying to prove Alice wrong." Another explosion rocked the facility. Alice's voice cut through the noise. "Got it! Lane, now!" The emergency lights flickered, then stabilized. The smoking control panel went dark as backup systems fully engaged. In the sudden quiet, Alice's voice carried clearly. "That's what happens when you let pride override science." She turned to face the gathered workers. "The old system just failed catastrophically. If we hadn't installed the backup system last week, against significant resistance, I might add, this whole facility would be dark right now." Richard stepped forward. "Now see here." "No, you see," Alice cut him off. "I just saved this facility from a complete meltdown. Your little demonstration of reliability nearly caused millions in damage. Still want to question my competence?" Dad pushed through the crowd. "Richard, in my office. Now." He turned to Alice. "How long until we can restore power?" "The new system can be online in an hour. The old one," she gestured at the smoking panel, "that's dead. Permanently. Guess you'll have to use my inexperienced solution after all." Workers began drifting back to their stations, many nodding respectfully to Alice. Lane started directing the installation team to begin work on the remaining sectors. Mum touched my arm. "She really does know what she's doing, doesn't she? She always has." I watched Alice confidently giving instructions to the maintenance crew. Maybe now they'll actually listen to her. "Sierra," Dad called from across the floor, I need your help with the incident report. And Alice's, of course." It wasn't quite an apology, but his face showed something I'd rarely seen before. Respect. Alice joined us, still slightly smoky from the control room. "Well, congratulations. You just got your modernization ahead of schedule. Sometimes the universe has a way of forcing change." "The universe or a certain teenage genius?" I smiled. Speaking of which, she checked her phone. The press will be here in 20 minutes. Something about a heroic young innovator saves family company. Lane's already handling it. Dad's eyes widened. The press? Welcome to modern business management, Alice said sweetly. Now, should we discuss expediting the remaining upgrades? Unless you'd prefer more electrical fires. As we walked toward Dad's office, I caught Alice's small smile. She'd known all along that something like this might happen, and she'd been prepared, turning their resistance into a public relations triumph. My daughter hadn't just inherited my determination, she'd improved upon it. And watching Dad's face as she outlined her accelerated implementation plan, I knew the last pieces of resistance were finally crumbling. Stock's up 70% since the modernization, Lane announced, bursting into the conference room where we were preparing for the company's centennial celebration. The press is calling us the Green Manufacturing Revolution. Alice barely looked up from her tablet. Did they mention the employee wellness programs too? Front page of the Business Journal, he confirmed, dropping a newspaper on the table. Along with a very flattering photo of you and Sierra at the factory reopening. 6 months had transformed the company. The old manufacturing floor now gleamed with solar panels and state-of-the-art equipment. Employee satisfaction was at an all-time high, and our carbon footprint had dropped dramatically. Your father wants to see you both, Mom said, entering with an armful of decorations. In his office, he says it's important. Alice and I exchanged glances. Despite the success, these meetings still carried the weight of years of tension. Dad stood at his office window holding something in his hands. Close the door, please. If this is about the new environmental compliance standards, Alice started, the data clearly shows... It's not about that. He turned, and I was surprised to see his eyes were wet. This is about family. He placed a wooden box on his desk. I recognized it immediately, the family heirloom box passed down through generations of Blairs. Dad, I was wrong, he said simply. About everything. About what makes a family strong. About what makes a business successful. About you, Sierra. And especially about you, Alice. Alice stepped forward cautiously. Mr. Blair, grandfather, he corrected softly. Please, if you'll allow it. He opened the box, revealing the antique compass that had guided our family's first business venture a century ago. This was supposed to go to my firstborn son, he continued, then to my firstborn daughter. But I let pride and tradition blind me to what was right in front of me, the most brilliant mind this family has ever produced. He lifted the compass and held it out to Alice. This belongs to you now. You've shown us all true north when we were lost. Alice's hands trembled as she took it. I don't know what to say. Say you'll stay, Mom blurted out. Both of you. Not just for business, but for Sunday dinners and holidays and everything we missed. There's more, Dad added, pulling out papers. I'm restructuring the company leadership. Sierra, you'll be CEO. Alice, Chief Innovation Officer with a seat on the board. If you want it. I felt tears threatening. Dad, let me finish. He took a deep breath. And I want to announce it at tonight's celebration. In front of everyone. Let them all see that this company's future isn't about blood. It's about vision. Your vision, Alice. Alice studied the compass, then looked up with that determined expression I knew so well. On one condition. Name it. The summer house? The one you almost sold? Turn it into a science camp for foster kids. Give other children the chances I got. Mom gasped softly. Dad's face worked with emotion. Already done, he said. The paperwork was filed last week. We're calling it the Alice Wilson Science Academy for Young Innovators. Alice launched herself into his arms, surprising everyone, especially Dad. After a moment's shock, he hugged her back fiercely. I'm so sorry, he whispered. So very sorry. Group hug, Lane called from the doorway, where he'd been not so subtly eavesdropping. Mom laughed through her tears and joined us. Later, as workers set up for the celebration, Alice and I stood on the factory floor, watching the sunset stream through the solar panels she'd designed. You planned this all along, didn't you? I asked. From the moment you saw the company was in trouble? She smiled, turning the compass over in her hands. Not all of it. The science camp was a surprise, but the rest? Let's just say I learned from the best about playing the long game. From me. From all of you. Grandfather's strategic thinking, grandmother's attention to detail, your determination. She paused. But mostly from you, Mom. You taught me that sometimes the greatest revenge is showing people a better way, and then helping them take it. The celebration hall was filling up. Through the windows we could see Dad practicing his speech, Mom fussing with his tie. Ready to be officially announced as the future of the family business? I asked. Alice tucked the compass into her pocket and straightened her blazer. Actually, I think we already are the present. The future is what we make next. And what's that? She grinned, that brilliant, unstoppable grin that had first captured my heart in a group home years ago. Well, Lane and I have been working on this new renewable energy concept as we walk toward our family, our whole, healing, imperfect family. I realized Alice was right. The best revenge wasn't about destroying the old, but about building something new and better from its foundations, and we were just getting started. And now, Dad announced to the packed auditorium at the Alice Wilson Science Academy, I'd like to introduce our first graduating class of young innovators. I watched from the side stage as 20 teenagers, all from foster homes, stood to thunderous applause. Each wore a lab coat with their name embroidered alongside the Academy logo, a compass pointing true north. Alice squeezed my hand. They did it, Mom. Every single one got full scholarships. Of course they did, Lane said, adjusting his camera. They had you as a mentor. The summer house had transformed beautifully into a state-of-the-art campus. Solar panels glinted on every roof, and the old tennis courts were now testing grounds for renewable energy projects. Dad continued his speech, his voice strong despite recent health challenges. When my granddaughter first proposed this academy, I didn't understand. Now watching these brilliant young minds flourish, I realized she saw something I couldn't, that potential knows no bloodlines. Mom dabbed at her eyes in the front row, sitting next to Natalie and Quinton. The family weekly dinners had become a tradition again, but different now. Filled with lively debates about innovation and sustainability rather than rigid formality. And speaking of potential, Dad said, I'd like to share some news. Our company's Green Manufacturing Initiative, led by Alice, has just been awarded the Global Innovation Prize. But more importantly, he paused, looking directly at Alice. The patent royalties from her technologies will fund similar academies across the country. This was news to me. I turned to Alice, who was trying not to smile. Surprise, she whispered. Karma works better when it keeps giving. The ceremony concluded with each student presenting their final projects. I watched Alice move among them, offering encouragement and adjustments, every bit the mentor she never had. Ms. Wilson, one student, Maria, approached nervously. I wanted to thank you. Not just for the scholarship, but for showing us that family isn't about where you come from. It's about where you choose to go, Alice finished, hugging her, and who you choose to become. Later, as the celebration wound down, we gathered in what used to be the summer house's formal dining room, now a cozy common area. Dad sat in his favourite armchair, the old family photos on the walls now mixed with pictures of academy students and their achievements. I've been thinking, he said, watching Alice help students pack up their projects, about what really makes a legacy. And, I prompted, I spent years worried about preserving the family name, but look at what she's built. Not just a successful business, but a way to lift others up. That's a true legacy. Mom joined us, carrying coffee. Remember when you said we don't take in strays? Dad winced. I was an old fool. Was? Alice teased, joining us. The board meeting last week suggests present tense? Hey now, he chuckled. I only argued against the flying solar drones because they seemed excessive. They're not flying solar drones, they're autonomous atmospheric monitoring platforms. Lane corrected, earning laughs from everyone. Natalie raised her coffee cup. To the next generation of innovators and the woman who showed us all a better way. No, Alice said firmly. To family. The one we're born with and the one we choose to build. As the evening light filtered through the solar windows Alice had designed, I watched my daughter surrounded by her students, my parents beaming with genuine pride, and Lane documenting everything for the Academy's newsletter. The wounds of rejection had healed into something stronger, something that could lift others out of similar pain. "Mom," Alice called, "Maria wants to show you her improved version of my solar coating. She's increased efficiency another 12%. Impossible, Dad said, but his eyes twinkled. Though I seem to recall saying that about your first design too." I joined them at the demonstration table where Maria's prototype glowed with possibility. Around us, other students gathered, eager to share their innovations, their dreams, their potential. This was Alice's real revenge, not destroying the old guard, but building a new generation that would make the old ways obsolete through sheer brilliance. She had taken rejection and turned it into a revolution of opportunity. "Ready to head home?" Lane asked as the last students left. Alice looked around the room, at the compass logo on the wall, at her grandfather dozing in his chair, at her grandmother arranging tomorrow's schedule, at me. "I am home," she said simply. "We all are." And in that moment, watching the sunset paint the Academy in shades of gold, I realized that karma hadn't just come full circle. It had spiraled upward, lifting us all to something higher than we'd ever imagined. The lost little girl I'd chosen to love had become the woman who taught us all how to love better. And that was the greatest revenge of all.
The screen of my phone glowed mockingly in the darkness of my bedroom, displaying a balance I couldn't comprehend. $12.47. Just yesterday, there had been over $40,000 in my account. Every penny I'd saved since I was 16. My hands trembled as I refreshed the app again and again, hoping it was just a glitch. My name is Caroline, and I thought I knew what betrayal felt like. I was wrong. A notification popped up, a text from my mother. "Honey, we borrowed some money for Claire's wedding. Don't worry, we'll pay you back once everything settles down. This is for the family's joy." The room started spinning. I grabbed my keys and drove to my parents' house, still wearing my pajamas. The lights were on despite it being 11 p.m. Through the window, I could see Mom and Claire hunched over bridal magazines at the kitchen table, giggling like schoolgirls. I burst through the door without knocking. "What did you do?" Mom looked up, her smile faltering slightly. "Caroline, what are you doing here so late?" "My money," I said, my voice cracking. "How did you even access my account?" Claire's eyes widened. "What's going on?" "Your sister's being dramatic," Mom said, waving her hand dismissively. "We needed the money for your wedding venue deposit. The Riverside Garden books up years in advance, and they had a last-minute cancellation." $40,000? I couldn't keep the tremor from my voice. "That was everything I had." "Oh, please," Mom rolled her eyes. "You're always so selfish. This is your sister's special day. Besides, you're not even dating anyone. What were you saving for?" "My future. My independence. Maybe my own wedding someday." The words came out in a rush. "You had no right?" Dad appeared in the doorway, still in his work clothes. "What's all the shouting about?" "They stole my money," I said, turning to him. "Dad, they cleaned out my account." "Borrowed," Mom corrected. "And we're co-signers on that account, sweetheart. We've always had access." "The account I opened when I was 16, I said slowly. "The one you were supposed to remove yourselves from when I turned 18. Remember that conversation?" Dad at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Mara, we should have discussed this with Caroline first." "There wasn't time!" Mom stood up, spreading her arms. "The venue needed an answer today. Do you know how many people would kill for a June wedding at Riverside Garden? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Claire." Claire finally spoke up. "I didn't know it was Caroline's money." "Of course you didn't," I spat. "You never have to know where anything comes from. Everything just magically appears for precious Claire." "That's enough." Mom slammed her hand on the table. "I won't have you ruining this special time with your jealousy. The money will be repaid after the wedding." "After the wedding?" I laughed bitterly. "With what? The money you don't have? Is that why you stole from me in the first place? We did not steal, Mom began, but I cut her off. I worked 3 jobs through college. I saved every scholarship dollar. I lived on ramen while Claire got a new car for her 20th birthday. And now you take everything I've worked for without even asking? Caroline, Dad stepped forward, reaching for my arm. Let's talk about this rationally. I jerked away from him. Don't touch me. You're just as bad as she is. You always stand there and let her do whatever she wants. I'm sorry, Claire whispered, tears welling in her eyes. I didn't want it to be like this. No, I said, backing toward the door. You never want it to be like this. You just want everything handed to you and someone else to deal with the consequences. Mom followed me. Where are you going? Don't be ridiculous. Come back inside and we'll discuss this like adults. I turned to face her one last time. Adults ask before taking something that doesn't belong to them. Adults respect boundaries. You're not adults. You're thieves. As I drove home, my phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from all 3 of them. I ignored them all. In my apartment, I sat in the dark, staring at the wedding invitation that had arrived last week. The elaborate script announced Claire and Trenton's perfect day at the prestigious Riverside Garden. My perfect sister, my perfect parents, their perfect lies. I picked up my phone and dialed. Elise, I need your help with something. It's almost midnight, my best friend answered groggily. What's wrong? Everything, I said, my voice steady for the first time that night. And I'm going to make them pay for it. Elise sat across from me at our usual coffee shop booth the next morning, her eyes wide as I showed her my empty bank account. They can't do this. It's illegal, right? Apparently they can, I said, stirring my untouched coffee. I called the bank. Since they're still co-signers, technically they had authorization. But you're 26. Why were they still? Because I trusted them. The words tasted bitter. I never thought they'd... My phone buzzed again, Claire's face lighting up the screen for the 10th time that morning. I declined the call. You have to answer eventually, Elise said gently. Watch me not. I switched my phone to silent. You know what the worst part is? Mom's already posting about the perfect venue on social media. Look. I showed Elise my mother's Facebook post. Dreams do come true. So blessed to announce Claire and Trenton's wedding will be at the prestigious Riverside Garden. Perfect day. Blessed mother. June wedding. The comments are making me sick, I said. You must be so proud. Claire deserves nothing but the best. If they only knew. The bell above the cafe door chimed and I froze. Dad walked in, scanning the room until he spotted me. Caroline, he said, approaching our table, you're not answering your phone. Funny how that works. Kind of like how you didn't answer when I tried calling about accessing my account yesterday. He shifted uncomfortably. I was in meetings all day. Right, important meetings. Always too important to stop Mom when she goes too far. I'll leave you 2 to talk. Elise started to slide out of the booth, but I grabbed her arm. Stay, please. Dad pulled up a chair. Your mother and I discussed it, and we understand you're upset. Upset? I laughed. Dad, you stole my life savings. Borrowed, he corrected automatically, then winced when I slammed my cup down. Stop saying that. You can't borrow without asking. You can't borrow what you can't repay. Where's this money supposedly coming from? He loosened his tie. We have some investments we can liquidate after the wedding. Investments? I leaned forward. What investments? Last month you were complaining about second mortgaging the house for Claire's grad school. We'll figure it out, he said weakly. Caroline, please. Your sister is devastated. She's been crying all morning. Good. Don't be like that. She's your sister. And I'm your daughter. My voice cracked. Several cafe patrons turned to stare. Did either of you think about that? Did you think about what this money meant to me? Of course we did, but sometimes families make sacrifices. No, I cut him off. Claire doesn't sacrifice. Mom doesn't sacrifice. You don't sacrifice. I'm the only one who ever has to give anything up. Dad reached across the table for my hand. I pulled back. Remember when I got into Stanford? I asked quietly. Full academic scholarship, but I still needed money for housing and books. Mom said we couldn't afford it. I went to state instead. 2 months later, Claire got her BMW. That was different. How? How was it different? He had no answer. Get out, I said. Caroline. Get out. He stood slowly, looking older than I'd ever seen him. We love you, both of you, equally. That's the biggest lie you've ever told. I turned to stare out the window, refusing to watch him leave. After the bell chimed again, Elise squeezed my hand. Are you okay? No. I pulled out the wedding invitation, running my finger over the embossed letters. But I will be. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about karma. I met her eyes, and how sometimes it needs a little help. My phone buzzed with a text from Claire. Please talk to me. I didn't know it was your money. I'll find another venue. No, you won't, I muttered, typing back. Keep the venue. You deserve your perfect day. I'll be there. Don't worry. Elise raised an eyebrow. That's surprisingly forgiving of you. I showed her my screen, where I'd pulled up Boston's Instagram profile. He was a social media manager I knew through mutual friends, and more importantly, he had over 100,000 followers. They want a perfect wedding? I smiled for the first time in 24 hours. I'll make sure everyone remembers it. Caroline, Elise warned, whatever you're planning. They took everything I had, I said, hitting the message button on Boston's profile. Now I'm going to take the only thing they care about, their precious reputation. The cafe bell chimed again. This time it was my mother, clutching her designer purse like a shield. I stood up, gathering my things. Not today, Mom. I've got a wedding to prepare for. You want me to do what? Boston leaned back in his chair at the trendy downtown bar, eyebrows raised. Make it go viral, I repeated, sliding my phone across the table. The bank statement was still open on the screen. I want everyone to know exactly how my sister's dream wedding is being funded. He whistled low. That's cold, Caroline, even for you. Colder than stealing someone's entire savings? Fair point. He took a sip of his beer. But have you thought this through? Once something's online, it's there forever. Good. I pulled out my notebook, flipping to a fresh page. I want it to be permanent. I want... Hey, guys! A familiar voice cut through the bar's ambient noise. My stomach dropped as Trenton, Claire's fiancé, approached our table. Trent, Boston stood to give him a quick hug. Didn't expect to see you here. Just grabbing drinks with some work friends. His eyes landed on me. Caroline, perfect timing. Claire's been trying to reach you. I've been busy, I said flatly. Listen. He pulled up a chair uninvited. I heard about what happened with the money. I had no idea. Save it, I cut him off. You're just as bad as she is. Living in your fantasy world where everything works out perfectly because someone else pays the price. His face reddened. That's not fair. I offered to help pay for the venue when I found out. With what? I laughed. Your entry-level salary? The same one you used to justify Claire paying for your dates all through college? Caroline, Boston warned. No. Let her finish, Trenton said, jaw tight. Clearly she's been holding on to this for a while. You're damn right I have. I leaned forward. You've been living off my sister's allowance for years, and now you're living off my stolen savings. You're a parasite, Trenton. He stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. I came here to make peace. Claire's devastated. Your parents are trying to make it right. Why can't you just what? Roll over? Accept it? Like I always do? Maybe if you weren't so bitter about everything? Get out, I said, my voice deadly quiet. Before I start telling everyone here exactly what kind of man you are. He left without another word. Boston waited until he was gone before speaking. Well, that was intense. He deserved it. Maybe. Boston picked up my phone again. But you might want to be more careful. Element of surprise and all that. He had a point. I took a deep breath, refocusing. So, will you help me? I don't know, Caroline, this is pretty nuclear. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Drop whatever you're planning. Some things should stay in the family. I showed it to Boston. See, they're already trying to silence me. He frowned. Who sent that? Probably one of Mom's country club friends. She's been telling everyone I'm having a mental episode. I rolled my eyes. Classic deflection. What exactly do you want to do? I pulled out the wedding invitation. June 15th, Riverside Garden. I'm going to stand up during the ceremony and tell everyone exactly how this wedding was funded. I want you to make sure it spreads beyond just the guests. That's specific. I've had time to think about it. I showed him my notes. I'll need multiple camera angles, live streaming capabilities, maybe even... Caroline? A soft voice interrupted. I looked up to see Elise, who was supposed to meet us later. You're early, I said. Yeah. She sat down, looking troubled. I just came from your parents' house. My stomach clenched. Why were you there? Claire called me. She's a mess, Caroline. She's talking about canceling the wedding. Good. Is it? Elise challenged. Will that get your money back? Will it make you feel better? Yes, I said, but my voice wavered. You're lying. She reached for my hand. I know you're hurt. You have every right to be. But this path you're on... Don't, I pulled away. Don't try to talk me out of this. I'm not. I'm asking you to think about what happens after. When the video goes viral, when the family's torn apart, when there's no going back, what then? My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Last warning. Back off. I showed it to them both. See? They're threatening me now. Still think I should back down? Boston and Elise exchanged looks. Actually, Boston said slowly, this might work in our favor. Keep those texts. Document everything. If we're going to do this, let's do it right. I smiled, feeling the first flutter of victory. So you'll help? He nodded. But we do this my way. Professional, calculated, no emotional outbursts. Deal. I raised my glass. To karma. To karma, he echoed, but Elise remained silent, watching me with worried eyes. I ignored her concern. There was no turning back now. Are you sure about this? Boston asked, adjusting the tiny camera hidden in what looked like a normal brooch. Once we start, there's no going back. We were sitting in his home office, surrounded by various pieces of recording equipment. 3 weeks had passed since the confrontation at the bar, and the wedding was now just 10 days away. I'm sure. I pinned the brooch to my jacket, checking its position in the mirror. How's the audio quality? Crystal clear. He played back a test recording. But Caroline, these threatening texts you've been getting, maybe we should report them. I shook my head. They're just trying to scare me. Besides, we need them for the story. My phone lit up with another message from Claire. Just picked up my dress. Wish you'd been there. Miss you. I ignored it, just like I'd ignored the dozens before it. The bridal shower invitation, the rehearsal dinner details, the desperate voicemails. Your sister's really trying, Boston observed, watching me delete the message. She's really trying to pretend everything's normal, I corrected, just like always. The doorbell rang. Boston checked his security camera feed. It's Elise. She burst in moments later, waving a stack of papers. You're not going to believe what I found. What is it? I asked as she spread the documents across Boston's desk. Bank statements, credit card bills, loan applications. She pointed to highlighted sections. Your parents are completely underwater. They've been living on credit for years, trying to maintain their lifestyle. I leaned in closer. Where did you get these? I have a friend who works at their bank. She owed me a favor. Elise looked uncomfortable. What they did to you? It wasn't just cruel. It was desperate. They're on the verge of bankruptcy. All the more reason to expose them, I said. They're frauds. Caroline, Elise's voice softened. They're drowning. Maybe if you talk to them? No, I gathered the papers. This is perfect. Now we can show everyone exactly who they are. Boston cleared his throat. I've been thinking, maybe we should have a backup plan. What if someone tries to stop you during the ceremony? That's why I need you both there, I said. Multiple angles, multiple devices streaming. If I get shut down, one of you keeps recording. I don't know, Elise hesitated. This feels wrong. Wrong? I spun to face her. You know what's wrong? This bill for Claire's wedding dress. I pointed to one of the statements. $10,000. That's 2 months of my savings right there. For one dress she'll wear once. I'm not defending them, Elise said, but... A sharp knock at the door cut her off. Boston checked the camera and paled. It's your dad. What? I grabbed the documents, shoving them into my bag. How did he know I was here? Probably followed me, Elise admitted. I saw his car earlier, but thought I lost him. The knocking grew louder. Caroline? I know you're in there. Please, we need to talk. Boston pointed to his back door. Go, I'll handle him. I slipped out just as Boston opened the front door. From around the corner, I heard my father's voice. Where is she? Mr. Graham, Boston said firmly, this is private property. She's my daughter, who clearly doesn't want to speak with you. I texted Elise. Meet me at our backup location. 20 minutes later, we regrouped at a small cafe across town. Boston joined us shortly after. Your dad's gone, he reported. But he left this. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a note. It's a start. Please let us make this right. I ripped both in half. Caroline, Elise protested. It's not about the money anymore, I said. It's about the lies, the manipulation, everything they've hidden for years while pretending to be the perfect family. Speaking of hiding, Boston pulled out his laptop. I've got the live stream set up ready. Multiple platforms, impossible to shut down completely. The moment you start talking, it'll go live. I nodded, touching the brooch. Good, and the audio? Crystal clear, like I said, but... He hesitated. Are you absolutely sure you want to do this? It's not too late to back out. My phone buzzed with another anonymous text. Final chance. Walk away or face the consequences. I showed them the message. See? They're still trying to control me. Still trying to silence me. Well, not anymore. I stood up, gathering my things. The rehearsal dinner is in 3 days. I need you both there, testing the equipment, making sure everything works perfectly. And then? Elise asked quietly. And then, I smiled grimly, my sister gets exactly the wedding day she deserves. As I walked out, I heard Elise whisper to Boston, I'm scared for her. I'm scared for all of them, he replied. They should be, I thought. The perfect family was about to get a very public wake-up call. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear. Perfect weather for destroying my family's reputation. I stood in front of my mirror, adjusting the pale blue bridesmaid's dress Claire had chosen months ago. The brooch camera was hidden perfectly among the beading. My phone lit up with a text from Boston. Equipment check at 9. Don't be late. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door, only to find Elise waiting in the hallway. You shouldn't be alone today, she said simply. The drive to Riverside Garden was silent. The venue looked like something from a fairy tale, with its manicured lawns and cascading flower arrangements. A banner across the entrance read, Claire and Trenton's perfect day. Subtle, I muttered. Boston met us at the side entrance, laptop in hand. Testing, testing. Camera 1, say something. I hate everything about this place. Audio's perfect. He checked his screen. Camera 2? Elise touched her necklace, another hidden camera. Testing. All systems go. Boston looked up. Last chance to back out. Before I could respond, my mother's voice rang out across the garden. Caroline! There you are! She hurried over, perfect makeup already in place, designer dress rustling. Why aren't you at the bridal suite? Claire's been asking for you. I needed some air. Well, come on. She grabbed my arm. The photographer wants pictures of the sisters getting ready together. I caught Boston's eye. He nodded slightly. The cameras were rolling. The bridal suite was chaos. Makeup artists, hairdressers, and Claire in the middle of it all, looking like a princess in her expensive dress, my stolen savings wrapped in white silk and lace. Caroline! She jumped up, eyes watery. You came. I'm a bridesmaid, aren't I? She hugged me tight. I've missed you so much. I'm so sorry about everything. Are you? I pulled back. Or are you just sorry I found out? Girls, Mom warned. Not today. Right, I smiled coldly. Today's perfect, just like everything else in Claire's life. The makeup artist approached with her brush. Ready for touch-ups? I'll do my own, I said quickly, not wanting anyone to notice the brooch. Claire caught my arm as I turned away. Can we talk? Please? Just for a minute? I followed her to a private corner, aware of the camera recording every moment. I tried to give it back, she whispered. The venue deposit, but they said it was non-refundable. How convenient. I'm serious. I feel terrible. Trenton and I even talked about postponing, but you didn't. Mom said it would be a waste. Of my money? She flinched. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Claire, but you're still going through with it. Because I love him. Tears welled in her eyes. And I love you. You're my sister. Please don't let this ruin everything. For a moment, just a moment, I wavered. Then my phone buzzed. Another anonymous text. Last warning, don't do this to your family. My resolve hardened. You should finish getting ready. Wouldn't want to ruin your perfect makeup. The next few hours passed in a blur of photographs, last-minute adjustments, and carefully orchestrated moments. Mom kept trying to create picture-perfect scenes of sisterly love, while Dad hovered anxiously in the background. Finally, guests began arriving. I watched from a window as Boston and Elise took their strategic positions, one near the front, one in the middle, both with clear views of the altar. 5 minutes, the wedding coordinator called out. Claire appeared beside me, radiant in her final moments of preparation. How do I look? Like $40,000, I said quietly. She paled. Caroline. Places, everyone. The coordinator clapped her hands. Bridesmaids, line up. As we took our positions, I felt my phone buzz one last time. Not an anonymous threat this time, but a message from Dad. Whatever you're planning, please remember, you can't take it back. I deleted it without responding. The wedding march began to play. One by one, we processed down the aisle. I could feel Mom beaming from the front row, Dad looking nervous beside her. Boston gave me a subtle nod as I passed. Elise wouldn't meet my eyes. I took my place at the altar, watching Claire float down the aisle on Dad's arm. She looked beautiful, perfect, everything she'd always been and I'd never managed to become. The minister began to speak. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. My hand touched the brooch. In moments, everything would change. The perfect family would shatter. The perfect wedding would become a viral scandal. If anyone has any reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, I took a deep breath. This was it. My moment of truth. Claire turned slightly, catching my eye. For the first time in weeks, I really looked at my sister, and what I saw made me hesitate, but only for a moment. Actually, I stepped forward, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent church. I do have a reason. Claire's face crumpled. Caroline, please. Everyone here thinks this is a perfect wedding, I continued, my voice growing stronger. A perfect couple, a perfect family, but it's all built on lies. Mom stood up. Caroline, stop this right now. No, Mom, I won't stop. Not anymore. I turned to address the guests directly. You want to know how this perfect wedding was funded? With stolen money? My money. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I could see Boston's red recording light blinking steadily. $40,000, I announced. Every penny I'd saved since I was 16. They took it all, without asking, without permission, to pay for this. I gestured at the elaborate decorations. Because heaven forbid Claire doesn't get exactly what she wants. That's enough. Dad started moving toward me. Is it? I pulled out the bank statements Elise had found. Should we talk about the second mortgage, the maxed out credit cards, all to maintain this perfect image? Security! Mom called out. 2 men in black suits started moving up the aisle. Go ahead, I laughed. Remove me, but you can't remove the truth. This whole thing is streaming live right now. Gasps echoed through the church. Phones started appearing in people's hands, already searching for the feed. "She's lying," Mom announced desperately. "She's just jealous of her sister's happiness." "Am I?" I pulled out my phone, projecting screenshots of my bank account onto the wall using the church's presentation system. Boston's technical setup working perfectly. "Here's my account before and after, the same day they booked this venue." Trenton stepped forward. "Claire, did you know about this?" Claire's perfect makeup was streaking with tears. "I didn't know at first. When I found out, she knew," I cut in. "She always knows. She just pretends not to see the damage she causes." The security guards reached me. One grabbed my arm. "Touch me and it gets worse," I warned. "I have years of evidence. Every time they chose her over me. Every sacrifice I was forced to make while she got everything." "Stop!" Claire screamed. She ripped off her veil. "Just stop! You're right, okay? You're right about everything!" The church fell silent. "I knew," she continued, voice shaking. "I knew they took your money. I knew it was wrong. But I was scared to say no to Mom, scared to be anything less than perfect, scared to disappoint everyone like you always did," Mom gasped. "Claire." "No, Mom. Caroline's right. We're frauds. All of us." Claire turned to Trenton. "I'm sorry. I can't do this. I can't start our marriage with stolen money and lies." Trenton stared at her for a long moment, then walked out without a word. The church erupted in chaos. "Do you see what you've done?" Mom advanced on me, face contorted with rage. "You've ruined everything." "No, Mom. You did that. The moment you decided your image was worth more than your daughter's future." Dad finally spoke up. "She's right, Mara. This has to stop." "John, don't you dare." "I'm done enabling this." He turned to the guests. "My daughter is telling the truth. We stole her money. We've been living a lie, and I'm ashamed." The security guards released me, clearly unsure what to do in this situation. Phones were recording everywhere now. I could practically see the social media storm brewing. "Caroline," Claire approached me, mascara streaking down her face. "I know it's too late, but I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Behind the perfect facade, I saw something I'd never noticed before: fear. The same fear I'd lived with my whole life, of never being enough. "It's not too late," I said quietly. "It's just the truth." Finally. Mom collapsed into a pew, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. Dad sat beside her, looking both defeated and relieved. Boston appeared at my side. "It's trending already. Top story on 3 platforms." Elise joined us, her camera still recording. What now? I looked around at the destroyed wedding, the shocked guests, my broken family, the perfect day shattered by truth. "Now," I said, unpinning the brooch camera. "We stop pretending." I walked down the aisle, past the whispers and stares, past the scattered rose petals and abandoned programs. At the door, I turned back one last time. Claire stood alone at the altar, still in her perfect dress, looking more real than she ever had before. Mom sobbed in the front pew while Dad stared straight ahead. The perfect family finally exposed. I stepped out into the sunlight, feeling lighter than I had in years. The truth had cost me my family, but lies had already done that long ago. At least now everyone knew it. 3 days after the wedding that wasn't, my video had over 5 million views. Perfect family fraud was trending, and my inbox was flooded with messages from strangers sharing similar stories of family betrayal. "You've got another interview request," Boston said, scrolling through his phone. We were sitting in his office, monitoring the fallout. "Morning show wants you live tomorrow. No more interviews." I closed my laptop, pushing away from the endless social media storm. I've said everything I needed to say. My phone rang. Claire's number. I'd been ignoring her calls since the wedding, but this time something made me answer. "Hello?" "I moved out," she said without preamble. "I'm staying at a hotel." "What about Trenton?" "He's gone. Said he couldn't trust me anymore." Her voice cracked. "Mom's not speaking to me since I defended you to the local news." "You defended me?" Of course I did. You told the truth. Something I should have done a long time ago. A knock at Boston's door interrupted us. Through the security camera, I saw Dad standing outside, looking haggard. I have to go, I told Claire. Wait, can we meet? Please, I need to talk to you properly. I hesitated. I'll think about it. Boston opened the door. Dad stepped in holding a thick envelope. Caroline, he said, looking years older than he had at the wedding. We need to talk. About what? How the country club kicked you out? How Mom's perfect reputation is ruined? About this. He placed the envelope on the desk. It's everything we own. The house, the cars, our investments, what's left of them. We're selling it all. I opened the envelope, scanning the documents. Why are you showing me this? Because it's yours. He sat heavily in a chair. All of it. To sell and recoup what we took from you. Dad, no, let me finish. He pulled out another paper. Your mother doesn't know I'm here. She's not well. The exposure, the shame. She had a breakdown yesterday. My stomach twisted. Is she okay? She's getting help. Professional help. Finally. He smiled sadly. It turns out our perfect family had more cracks than even you knew about. Boston quietly excused himself, leaving us alone. I failed you, Dad continued. I failed both my daughters by enabling your mother's obsession with appearances, by not standing up when I should have, by letting fear of confrontation destroy our family. Why now? I asked. Why are you suddenly willing to admit all this? Because I watched that video, not just at the wedding, but afterward. I saw my daughter's face as she exposed our lies. I saw what we'd done to you, really saw it, maybe for the first time. My phone buzzed. Another message from Claire. I found my old diary. Remember when Mom made you give up your school play lead so I could have it? I'm so sorry. I have so much to make up for. Dad noticed my expression. Claire? Yeah, she misses you. He leaned forward. We all do, but we understand if you never want to see us again. I stared at the documents. The house isn't worth $40,000. No, it's worth much more. Along with everything else, it should cover what we took, with interest. And Mom agreed to this? Mom doesn't get a vote anymore. His voice hardened. I've separated our finances, filed for divorce, 27 years of enabling her ends now. Divorce? I sat back, shocked. But your perfect marriage was as fake as everything else. He stood up. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the property transfers, unless what? Unless you're willing to try family counseling first. All of us. No pretenses, no perfect image to maintain, just truth. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Elise. Have you seen the news? Your story's inspiring people to speak up about financial abuse in families. You're making a difference. I looked at Dad, really looked at him. The proud man who'd always hidden behind Mom's decisions was gone. In his place was someone I barely recognized, someone real. I'll think about it, I said finally. The counseling, but I'm keeping these. I picked up the documents. As insurance. He nodded. Fair enough? At the door he paused. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Not for exposing us, though we deserved it, but for being strong enough to stand up for yourself. Something I never did. After he left, Boston came back in. You okay? No, I said honestly, but maybe someday. My phone lit up with a text from Claire. Remember when we were kids? Before Mom's perfect family obsession? When we were just sisters who loved each other? I miss that. I miss you. I stared at the message for a long time before finally replying. Coffee tomorrow? Just us. No perfect daughters, no pretenses, just truth. Her response was immediate. Yes, please. Thank you. Maybe some things broken could be rebuilt. Not perfectly, but honestly. And maybe that was better than perfect anyway. The coffee shop where Claire and I first met for reconciliation became our regular spot. Today, like every Wednesday for the past few weeks, she was already waiting at our usual table. "You're late," she said, sliding my usual order across the table. Therapy ran long. I sat down, noticing the stack of papers beside her cup. "What's that?" "My diary entries. I've been typing them up." She pushed them toward me. "Every time I was chosen over you, every unfair advantage, every stolen opportunity. Claire, we've been through this. I know, but I need you to have them. For the book." I nearly choked on my coffee. "What book?" "The one you should write. About financial abuse in families. About standing up to toxic patterns." She pulled out her phone. "Look at these messages I got after sharing my side of the story online." The screen showed dozens of comments from people sharing similar experiences, siblings describing hidden resentments, children detailing stolen inheritances, families torn apart by financial favoritism. "Your story matters," Claire said. "Our story matters." The bell above the door chimed. Dad walked in, followed by our family therapist, Dr. Rivera. "Sorry I'm late," Dad said, pulling up a chair. "The realtor needed signatures." "You sold the house?" Claire asked. He nodded. "Closing next week. Your mother's furious, but she signed the papers." "How is she?" I asked quietly. "Better. The new medication helps. She's starting to understand what she did to this family with her obsession for perfection." He smiled sadly. "She asked about you both yesterday, actually asked, not just demanded." Dr. Rivera opened her notebook. "Shall we begin? Caroline, you wanted to discuss boundaries going forward?" "Yes." I took a deep breath. "I've decided what to do about the money." Everyone tensed. "I don't want the house proceeds," I said, "or any of the other assets." "Caroline," Dad started, but I held up my hand. "Let me finish. I don't want revenge anymore. What I want is change." I pulled out my own stack of papers. "I'm starting a foundation for victims of family financial abuse, to help them get legal aid, counseling, whatever they need to break free." Claire's eyes widened. "That's amazing." "I want to use what happened to us to help others," I continued. "But I need your help, all of you, including Mom, when she's ready." "How?" Dad asked. "By telling the truth, the whole truth. No more perfect family facade. No more hiding the ugly parts." I turned to Dr. Rivera. "Would you help us develop a program? Something that addresses both the financial and emotional aspects?" She smiled. "I'd be honored." "There's something else," Claire said, pulling out another paper. "I found my old wedding dress receipt. I sold it yesterday. It's not 40,000, but—" She slid a check across the table. "Claire, please, let me start making things right." My phone buzzed. A text from Boston. "Morning show still wants that interview, but they want all of you. The whole story, from every angle. Interested?" I showed them the message. "It won't be pretty," Dad warned. "People will judge us." "They already are," Claire pointed out. "At least this way we can help others while we heal ourselves." Dr. Rivera made a note. "This could be very therapeutic, but only if everyone's ready." I looked at my father, who had finally found his voice. At my sister, no longer hiding behind perfection. At the empty chair where Mom might someday sit, facing her own demons. "I'm ready," I said. "Me too." Claire reached for my hand. Dad nodded slowly. "Together then. No more perfect lies." I texted Boston back. "Set it up. But make sure they understand. This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about redemption." His response was immediate. "That's an even better story." Claire laughed suddenly. "Remember when all I wanted was a perfect wedding? Remember when all I wanted was revenge?" I squeezed her hand. "Maybe we both needed something else entirely." "Truth," Dad said quietly. "We all needed truth." Dr. Rivera closed her notebook. "Same time next week?" We nodded, standing to leave. Outside the coffee shop, Claire hugged me impulsively. "Thank you," she whispered, "for breaking our perfect family. We needed to break to become real." I hugged her back, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not for perfection, but for something better. Something honest. Dad cleared his throat. Your mother asked. She asked if she could watch the interview when it airs. Together. All of us. I met Claire's eyes, saw my own mix of fear and hope reflected there. Together, I agreed, but this time, we tell the whole truth. After all, real families aren't perfect. They're just perfectly honest about their imperfections. And finally, that's exactly what we were becoming.